Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving value's contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we gain no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Well, yeah, I thought you're going to be in HR in a minute here.
First of all, I'd like to introduce today, episode 377, to our chief HR officer. Chael Sonnen is in the house. It took us a while to hire somebody in HR, and he was trying to kindly bail out Adam. I thought he was doing a great job, by the way, because he wanted Adam to keep his job. But by the way, you know, there's a lot of guys you watch and in the sports game, and us as fans who watch, right? You watch because a few different reasons. Guys know how to fight. Sure. They know how to sell a show. But most importantly, you got to be able to also entertain. And I don't know if there's been, in the Mount Rushmore of entertainment to the audience, this guy absolutely is on the Mount Rushmore of that. There's not many people that know how to sell tickets and sell events like him. And here's a weird thing about him. When I found out that you never used any four-letter words. How is that even possible?
Shocking.
Nothing for that to be taking place. You could have been a great money manager. You could have been a salesperson. You could have gone into business. You could have gone into politics. You did in 2010, I believe, in Oregon, right?
Yes.
The 37th district.
I'll be going back.
And we'll talk about that as well. But one of the most entertaining, coolest cats in UFC who, when we go through the list of people you fought, like, you know, a lot of times you look at people's resumes. They fought a couple different people. Like, okay, he fought a couple different people. There wasn't anybody you didn't fight during your era. So with that being said, the one and only Chael Sonnen in the house. Chael, great to have you on.
That was beautiful. I don't even know how to respond to that. Like, you were saying that, I'm going, how do you act humble? I was enjoying it. I was nodding yes. I'm like, wait, is that what you do? That was really nice. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Be honest, the best compliment was the HR one, though. I mean, that
really
right,
was. Yes.
That's a great honor.
When you mentioned a Mount Rushmore, to be remembered in any capacity for your contributions, I really love that sport. And there's not very many ways to be involved unless you're in there getting punched or kicked. And that doesn't last long. You know, that's a small window, as people talk about. So that was really nice. And I do think that I helped to spur the entertainment era. And I love it when people give me credit for that. So thank you.
Chael, let me ask you this. When you're, because, you know, you watch these guys sometimes in any sport, right? You're like, okay, what's Charles Barkley going to do after his career's over with? Yeah, he's going to be on TV. He's going to get a job, right? What's Shaq going to do? He's going to have a job, right? He's going to do something. Some of the guys go into coaching. Some of the guys stay in analysts. Some of the guys don't have a job. Like, they don't know what to do. For you, the ability to sell, like even right now, the Good Guy, Bad Guy show with you and Daniel Cormier, you know, and you're playing, you know, even Kelly came and is like, so he signed in as the bad guy, like when you're signing it at the front. You know, you could have gone into any business. How did the fight game start for you? I know since 9 years old, you're wrestling, all of that. But was there ever a moment you're like, I can use this mouth, the way I'm talking, the gift of gab, to go into business sales? Was it like, no, I'm going to go into fighting from day one?
No, well, I was a wrestler, and my dad and I loved wrestling, and we used to have a debate, maybe even before the UFC started, where they're trying to find the best martial art. But my dad and I would discuss, like, you know, is Mike Tyson was the sitting champion? We'd have these conversations. Sugar Ray Leonard, you'll remember that time frame, or is it the wrestling Olympic gold medalist? Like, which one is better? And we were wrestlers, and we both concluded it was the boxer. My dad thought it was the boxer. He told me it was the boxer. We just couldn't find a boxing gym. So, you know, my whole life we were doing wrestling, like with this, for whatever theory of, you know, being the toughest guy, whether it's your school or your neighborhood or however that worked. But we couldn't find a boxing gym. So then the UFC came around, and we're going, oh, it's not the wrestler or the boxer. It's this sport. So just kind of transitioned into that. But Patrick, I never thought it would be a career. Like the claims that Dana White made that he was going to do, I didn't believe any of them. I didn't think he could make this mainstream. I didn't think he could get us out of the license in all the states. I didn't think he could get us out of the gutter of being human cockfighting. I didn't think he could make it so that you could make a real living at it. I didn't believe any of those things. Yeah.
To catch
As a street kid from Boston making a claim like that, now he's got a $5 billion company.
Crazy.
Why would anyone doubt Dana White at this point?
You can't.
Not at this point, but you got to realize, because when you're at that point, and you ever seen him working as a, can you put a picture of him? He was working at a concierge at a hotel. Yep. You ever seen this picture?
Dana White.
Yep.
Dana White concierge hotel. Yep. Okay. Hotel. I think, go to images. I think if this picture's out there, It's an early picture of him working as a concierge.
In the uniform. I know the exact one you're talking about.
Right?
He's got the hair,
right.
a little skin. I know the exact picture.
And you're seeing him go
There
from, this, zoom in.
That looks fake.
That looks like AI.
As a bellman.
Yeah.
This guy went from being a bellman to being where he's at right now. And so at the beginning, he's selling the vision. This is what we're going to be going. This is what we're going to be doing. And they buy it from this guy for $2 million who had the vision of having sharks swimming around the cage. I don't know if you've seen that whole documentary that he was. Did you know about this? Like, they were going to have.
Tell us
so
that.
his idea, the original guy, apparently, I mean, you can probably tell the story better than me. With the shark story. I don't know.
I love what you're saying. They just didn't know what to do with it. Like, they were steering into the human cockfighting. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, no rules, no time limit.
Yeah.
So this is what they were saying. And that was a big problem. Dana did not like that. And he wasn't prudish about the rules, but he said, that's not a sport. That's a riot, what you're explaining. So just to your point, where they were going to do the shark, I mean, it was all sorts of silly stuff. They were going to go out on a ship and take it to neutral territory. You know, it was going to be crazy. They're going to have Saddam fight George Bush. I mean, it got really weird at one point. And
Was Dana always business-minded, meaning was he just more about fighting? Was he more about the marketing, the Don King component, Oscar De La Hoya, whatever, the marketer, the branding? Or did he always have this vision of a businessman and building this?
Which would be one of the questions you wish that he would candidly answer. I mean, as I sat back and observed him, he was a purist to the sport. He truly wanted the best against the best. He came up as a boxing fan, was annoyed that you couldn't get the top guy against the top guy. So he, as a promoter, was going to make sure that happened. He was going to get these guys under contract. He was just going to have the best versus the best. He wasn't going to build guys or protect them. And then a business just started to form. It really did. And he's one of those guys. The problem with anybody catching him, they can't work as hard as he does. They just can't. They cannot put in 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no such thing as Christmas. There's no such thing as your birthday. There's no such. It's a work day.
Well, let me tell you, I'm Christmas. I'm in. We're in Aspen with the family. I get a text. He says, "Hey, it's Dana. It's 3:30 in the morning, Abu Dhabi. If you're up, want to talk to you." I'm like, "What?" I call him up. I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, Pat? It's 3:30 here. And we're having a conversation." He's doing business, trying to connect me with another guy that's trying to get a hold of me. That he's wanting to put us in a group text at 3:30 in the morning while he's on vacation with his family.
Wow.
I mean, this wasn't like a regular thing that you're talking about. And this is a guy that's running now, I think Endeavor, I don't know what they bought it for. Right now, it's like market cap is $9-10 billion of a company. They bought it very close on what them and WWE are valued at. But got to give him props. So going back to you. So you hear him, you and your dad, you're thinking, okay, is it wrestling? Is it boxing? We're going to go boxing. No, you know what? It's going to be this new UFC thing. So you go in at this point, Cheal, you talked too much trash one time on a high school wrestling match. I don't know what it was, and the coaches like toned it down. You even talked a lot on one of the interviews where you stayed in the character, and the girl's like, if I knew this is how you're going to be, I was never going to put this live. And then she never played it, and you stayed in character. What point is everybody realizing this kid knows how to talk shit? Was it as early as 9 years old, 15 years old, 18? Or was it kind of like if you've seen the Brian Bosworth documentary? I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Oh, yeah,
or,
I remember Boz.
Remember Boz is like, he was a very nice guy. In the documentary, he's just a simple guy. First year comes in, just chill. Second year's like, you know what? I'm not doing this. Then he goes into character. Then he got the earring. Then he's got all this stuff going on. And then that brand makes him also more money. Was it a moment like that or no? Day one, this is who I am.
Well, I will tell you this. Like, as I look back and there's like things you're grateful for, good choices and bad choices, I'm glad I stuck with it because it was resisted. I started doing some of that in college. And it was just little dual meets. And again, I never used profanity, and they were calling me, the biggest SHIT talker in all sports. Like, but I've never actually said anything like that. Like, it was kind of more of a more playful, the Will Smith approach, if you will. Like Eminem said, I don't have to curse to sell albums, but you do, so F him and F you too. I mean, it was one of these things though where I did think, like, hey, if you give me a chance, you'll like this a little bit. It's a little bit for everybody. And yeah, man, they would shut me down. I'd be in dual meets, and that was a rude thing to do. And they would take it from this for the local paper in Eugene. .com started to come around, and they wouldn't put me on them. And then Loretta Hunt, we actually went on, Patrick, and wrote a book together. But at the time that she called me,
get out of here,
killed the interview. Yeah, I mean, we've stayed friends, and she'll admit to that story too, that she thought I was rude, and she said that to me. She stopped the interview. She said, I never would have called you if I knew you were like this. I knew you ran around with Randy Couture, so I just assumed you were a nice guy. It's like, Loretta, I'm performing. You got to put this out. And all I had said, Chuck Liddell was the world champion at that time, and I made fun of a grown man with a mohawk. That's not very heavy stuff, but at the time, that was extremely disrespectful.
This is what year, by the way? How early is that?
This is about 2002.
So we're talking 22 years ago. We were not ready for that. Now, that's pretty wild.
They tried to not license me in 2 different states. There was an executive director in Nevada, Keith Kaiser was his name, who tried to pull my license because of things that I had sent to the media and that kids were watching, and this was a bad example. And that's what I'm trying to explain. Keith, I've never used a bad word. You got to go back. You're getting headline. You're getting this wrong. There's a performance here, and I had to go meet with him privately. And I never won him over. The commission overrode him and made him license me. He was going to pull my license.
Now, what's Dana saying behind closed doors? Is he calling and saying, hey, Cheal, hey, slow down with this or that? Or is he like, no, let her rip. Do what you're doing?
He never said a word behind closed doors. And I think he was disciplined to do that. He is very careful. If he ever tells somebody what to say or what not to say, he just won't do it. It's just part of him. He just won't do it. You might fall and you might be out of the company if you say the wrong, it's one of those things. We're on TV here, but he, I think, did appreciate it. And one time he said that I was the best ever, that I was better than Muhammad Ali. And I don't say that about myself. He did not mean that. He was a promoter. But I remember he said that.
That's a compliment. That's a heavyweight compliment. Yeah.
It made me feel great. I was making not enough money back then. It wasn't my only job. I mean, the sport was a very different time. So to have a compliment like that, to have a pat on the back, that's all you're going to get.
What were you doing full time?
That was a big compliment.
What was the full time?
I was in real estate. I was pursuing, also politics. From the time I was a little kid, I wanted to be governor of Oregon. And I will be the governor of Oregon. But,
really?
I was kind of pursuing.
That would be such a great story. So why, though? Why that aspiration? By the way, I saw that you went to BYU for a minute, and then I'm like, is he LDS? And I'm like, no, he's not LDS. You're Catholic.
Yes.
But you did go to BYU.
Yes.
But what was it? Did you and your father, did your father admire like a Reagan or a Carson or somebody kind of like the way some of these guys are? Is that the era, or no, you just wanted to go into politics?
I just always wanted to go into it. I remember being a little kid, and on the first day of school, for like first grade, second grade, third grade, but on the first day, the teacher would always have us do the same thing, which is write down on the paper what we want to be when we grow up. And I would write President of the United States. And when I got to high school, I changed that to governor. I brought it down to governor because I didn't want to leave Oregon. Once I started traveling the nation, I was kind of a homebody. So anyway, I backed it down to governor. But, you get one of those things in your head. It's like anything, and pretty soon it becomes true, and pretty soon you start taking those steps.
Did anything inspire it?
Well, yes. I have never seen a sporting event. And what I mean by that is I've never seen a football game or a basketball game. My Uncle Mel won an Olympic gold medal in '64 for basketball, and then in '65 he was part of the Celtics that won the world championship. He actually won a total of 3 NBA championships. Drives him crazy that I've never seen a basketball game, and I've tried.
You've never seen a basketball?
Never. I know what it is, and I've seen, but I have never from quarter 1 to quarter 4. Tried to watch the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. I never got through it. And I tell you that just because I could tell you every political debate that's ever happened. I'll watch a debate for Senate. I loved watching. I mean, they got this knucklehead out of Connecticut, and he was taking on Linda McMahon. I couldn't believe they took him. Blumenthal, is that the name that I'm looking for? And he had lied about his war service. And Linda was very interesting. She, according to Boots on the Ground in Connecticut, she spent so much money, she annoyed people. That is what a number of people within the WWE said that was their mistake. I only bring that up. Nobody watched that debate, but I did. I find those things, and I found them interesting. And I say that because the compliments that you paid me in fighting, that was the skills I was learning. I was learning to talk like the man on the 6 o'clock news.
That's crazy.
I love that. To talk like
but that makes
Reagan.
Sense.
Yeah.
So So is that your uncle right there, Mel Counts? Is that him?
Yeah,
he was 7 feet tall?
He was the
Holy crap.
first 7-footer. First
Holy
7-footer,
shit.
yes. He was a star on the 64 Olympic team.
And he's still around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's
wow.
82 years old, October 16th.
He got married a year ago. This guy just got married. He just got back from his honeymoon. Oh, no, my Uncle Mel's the man.
my God.
Oh, yeah.
So
By the way, for a tall guy to make it to 87 feet tall, it's not
amazing.
common for that to happen. That's fantastic.
amazing.
So, okay, so you're going through this phase. You're going to be a governor. By the way, favorite debate you've ever watched? Like if you were to say, you know, I thought we were going to go into fight moments, but give me your 5 favorite debate moments. Like,
Well,
because you'd be in jail, like any of those moments. What are your top 5?
I will tell you, watching Donald Trump end Jeb Bush by simply telling him that he didn't have energy. And I never heard that expression before, you don't have energy. I didn't really know what it meant at the time. And then he told him, oh, Jeb, you brought some energy tonight. I mean, it was just such a simple line.
Yeah.
Told Rand Paul one time, I've never made fun of you, and there's a lot of subject matter. And these are simple things. He told another guy, you're so far down that stage, if you're any further, you'll fall off it. I mean, it was these small things. And I remember Jeb Bush, and it was actually Jeb's mother. And when they were campaigning, they came out and said, you cannot insult your way to the White House. I remember thinking, you guys aren't paying attention. Like this guy, this is an entertainer. This is a performer, but this is good for ratings. This is how you get me to this, how you get attention. Like this is how it's done. And very early on, I like to mention my Trump support because I saw that one early. I saw that when people were still teasing him. And I was always a hoper. I didn't know where he stood or anything, but I did find him presidential. I found him to be a very good leader, just from a presence standpoint. You know, he'd been hinting this from 2004. It was like every 4 years, it was almost like a marketing ploy where it got annoying. It turned out he was serious. I went and did The Apprentice. And when I got there, I thought it was Schwarzenegger instead, because Trump had announced to the folks at NBC that he was going to run for president. And they have a equal time law that never gets enforced, but it is a law. So they couldn't put him on TV. For however long he was on TV, even for that, they'd have to offer to his opponent.
So how convinced, oh, sorry, how, I want to stay on this governor of Oregon thing. How convinced are you, Chael Sonnen, that you will be the governor of Oregon? The reason I ask you that is the current governor of Oregon, I believe her name is Tina Kotek.
Yep.
She's the first out lesbian governor. Her and I think also at the same time the governor of Massachusetts. And I don't think there's been a governor. There she is right there. There's our girl. I don't think there's been a Republican governor in Oregon since the early 80s.
Yes.
So you'd be reversing a ridiculous trend that's going on in Oregon. How, I assume if you're a Trump fan, you're a Republican, I'm assuming. How will you get elected as governor of Oregon?
Well, and I will tell you, I mean, I have a number of strategies, and that is Tina Kotek. I'll tell you what, she's tough. Like, I don't agree with her on politics, but she's tough, and she does not upset anybody. She finds that she doesn't go in the media and try to make waves. She goes in the office and works. I've got to give her credit for that. She has worked to get to that position. I will take her out in the next cycle if that's the one I run in, but I must give her that compliment, that she will show up and put some time in. One thing that happens in Oregon is we are known as the second bluest state in the nation, only behind Massachusetts. And I just don't find that to be true.
You guys are bluer than California?
Yes.
Wow.
We were the first.
Oregon?
That's what he said.
We legalized drugs. We're trying to switch that right now.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask a follow-up. I remember in 2020, Oregon became the first state in the union to legalize and decriminalize all drugs.
All of them.
And Pat always talks
cocaine.
about anything.
All of them.
Pat always talks about bad policies have what? Consequences. Now they're going back and they're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
What would you do on the drug situation in Oregon?
But that was a
really
very
bad.
stunning one. And the theory behind it isn't the worst theory. The theory is that you reduce crime when you stop making it illegal. And drugs are about the only thing in the world that you sell and somebody has to die over it. So that wouldn't happen anymore. This was the thought. You wouldn't have to have crime. You wouldn't have to do that. In fact, it was the government that was opening these things, and they're going to give you clean needles. And it got weird. It got really weird, and I don't quite know how you go down that path ideologically. Like, I couldn't imagine coming home and telling my mom, hey, Mom, this is what I'm going to do. And I just couldn't imagine telling her that was my idea. But at any rate, it was a big problem. There's all sorts of homelessness, and the crime is up, and the addiction is up, and dropouts, and single mothers. And I mean, everything that we would like to reduce is up. And they are being a completely a majority with Democrats. They are trying to change that right now. They realize they made a mistake.
You think you're electable in Oregon?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We have, to finish the thought why we're the second bluest state in the nation. It's just one county. It's Multnomah County, and it's Portland. And the Republicans come in every single cycle, and they try to appease the people of Multnomah County. They try to win them over every time. I don't know why they do that. I will annex Multnomah County. I will put it on Zillow and sell it to the state of Washington, and I will roll in and take Vancouver from them. I have no idea why they're trying to appease any of those people. I'll buy all their property. I will pay them, and they can leave. But when I say that, I feel like that's the biggest mistake they always try to make. Well, I'm gonna cure homelessness, and then nobody even takes a step in that direction. Multnomah County has made it very clear they don't care about crime, they don't care about drugs. We burnt Portland to the ground, and the mayor joined in. They blamed Trump for an insurrection, which they couldn't even spell. In all fairness, they never heard the word. They couldn't spell it to this day. They burnt Portland to the ground on video. They threw the Molotov cocktails at all the buildings. They raided and destroyed everything, and then those businesses didn't come back when the city didn't make any arrests, and it was on video. When the mayor came down and protested with the rioters, the business said, we're not coming back if we don't trust you. They went across the bridge into a state of Washington. It's only 7 miles away. And I mean, I just share that with you that that's not right. And that isn't what the people want. And they do a good job of getting them to the polls. And then they end up pissing off the Republicans because they try to appease Multnomah County. I'm not joking about that. And I realize I can't put it on Zillow and sell it, but I'll get a long way with that statement. And if I could put it on Zillow and sell it, I would.
And I think Portland was one of the cities. I know in Seattle, they think they had Chaz, these autonomous zones.
For goodness sake.
What was going on in Portland? At some point, you know, the left has gone too far left. They're no longer liberals and, you know, democracies with a lower D. It's gone full left. It's gone full woke. How would you actually change Portland and these autonomous zones and this woke lefty, as Elon Musk calls it, the woke mind virus? What would you do with that?
I have to tell you, I mean, this gets very philosophical, and I've been thinking about this since I was 9 years old. So wow. I'm trying, as you guys are asking me, which I didn't know you were going to ask me about this. I thought we were going to be talking like O'Malley or something with the title fight. So I'm trying to find a way to compress this. But first off, it's the mindset. It drives me crazy. Now, my sister is the head of school board, and my mother is a teacher.
Wow.
I disclose that because I'm going to give a hard time to educators. I'd like people to know that I've lived this. I live with it. My family kicks in, but I have a tremendous problem. When teachers come out and say, you know, we don't have funding or the classroom sizes are too big, that's a problem for me. I'm a wrestling coach. I have never been paid $1, but I have brought in millions of dollars in the form of scholarships for the athletes I've coached over the years. There are 80 boys that show up on the football field at 3 o'clock, tired and full of testosterone, the worst kids in the school. Their mouths are shut. They learn exactly what we want them to learn, and we're not paid $1 as coaches. And I have a big problem when the teachers can't keep your attention for 30 minutes. I think I think that we got to be a little bit tougher. We have to expect certain things. And we keep throwing money at some of these problems. I mean, you asked me how I'm going to clean up Portland. Mm-hmm. I will deputize the Gypsy Jokers and the Mongols. I will put a Harley Davidson on every block. We will end crime that day. And I'm not joking about that. They're talking about school shootings and what are you going to do? We got to bring all this money. We got to have resources officers. I will deputize some good old boys that I know. We will make this go away real fast.
Wow. Wyatt Earp style back in the day.
Wyatt Earp style. You will pull in, and there will be a guy on a Harley that you're going to have to pass. If you think I'm joking about it, or you think that they're going to walk the whatever past them, they're not. There's other ways to do this. We've tried the nice way, and it didn't work.
Sounds like it's going to be the new Oregon Trail.
Yeah. What do you think about what is that kind of an idea with seeing what Bukele's doing in El Salvador? Are you seeing how this guy won 85% on the second term? What he did with the Mara Salvador, the MS-13 going in jail, and they're sleeping on bets that are metal. You're not sleeping on a mattress. What he's doing to him. What do you think about what he's doing in El Salvador?
Sheriff Joe. I just learned about this actually a few days ago, this Kelly gentleman. But Sheriff Joe, or probably if I could transfer to that, I knew all about him. This guy was a legend. And another thing that he did is he was deputizing people. It wasn't this whole thing where you're hiring, we're having budget cuts, and we don't know what to do. I mean, I keep hearing about that, but the people that I got the most from in my life, whether that was parents that weren't paid or that was coaches that I had that were mentors, they weren't applying for jobs, and it wasn't money, and they didn't need budget cuts, and they didn't complain, and they didn't need they didn't need COVID time off, and they didn't need summers off. I mean, it was one of these situations where the right people are out there, and they will come forward, and they'll do a really great job. But there's another way to do it. I mean, when I get asked this in Oregon, I ultimately run, and it's either going to be my success or my demise. But I'm going to tell them I'm going to bring back the lynch mob. That's what I'm going to do.
What does that mean?
I'm going to bring the lynch mob are the good old boys that put on masks and they come in and they handle the business. If you want to kill somebody or you want to rob them, your trial is going to be right here in the street. I'm not being literal when I say this, guys. But I'm talking about from a standpoint that I'm going to let Multnomah County know. Like, the gig is up. There's a new sheriff in town. And just like you can try to pass by the guy on the Harley, you can come and try to pass by me. Nobody's throwing a Molotov cocktail. Can I tell you something that happened at a debate? You asked me debate moment.
Yeah.
Chris Christie.
Yeah.
All due respect. Chris Christie goes to a debate, and it was the very first one, and he attempts to gain favor with his knowledge of the Ukraine situation, by telling the people on the stage that he went there. I actually went to Ukraine, and you don't understand what they're doing. I'm quoting Chris Christie right now. They're taking the sons out of the home and shooting them in the head, and then they're raping the sisters and the wives. Like, Chris, you saw that? Because no one's getting raped when I'm around. Nobody's getting kicked and shot in that. But this is exactly what he said. Now, all his point was is he checked into a hotel and he watched it on TV like the other candidates did without flying to Ukraine. But they should have called him on it. Ramaswamy should have called him on it right then. I said, Chris, what are you talking about? That you went to Ukraine and you saw these things. It was a very weird statement for him to make. I thought there was a few gotcha moments. Quite frankly, even when Haley is talking about, I use my stiletto as a weapon. Say, when? When did you do that? And that was my big problem with Chris Christie. Like, if you're going to be the fat guy with an attitude, at some point in your life, you had to whip somebody's ass. Whether that was on the football field and you were the guard, or whether you got a weightlifting bench press record in junior high, at some point in your life, if you're the fat guy with a big mouth, you had to kick some ass. And he didn't. He was just a fat guy with a big mouth.
What do you think about Vivek, by the way, seeing some of the stuff that he was doing? By the way, you're making a very good point, because from the Christie side and the Haley side, Haley's obviously suspended yesterday, and she said, I'm not going to be endorsing Trump, and she gave some kind of a Margaret Thatcher. But what do you think about Vivek, the way he handled himself?
Oh, he is such an impressive man. He really, first off, he's handsome. He likes his wife. I like a guy that likes his wife, and not everybody does. I like a guy that is proud of his vows and his commitments. I just thought he did awesome. I thought he handled himself very well. I thought he was tough. I thought when he called out the RNC on stage, when she's sitting right there and said, you need to be replaced, that stuff isn't always nice, but I thought it was tough. I found him to be a good leader, and he also knows how to pick a side. You don't want a guy on a fence. I mean, I had to compliment Tina Kotek, who I might be running against. You don't want a guy on a side. And, when Vivek decided that he was done, he came to Trump, and he was amazing. He was as good as Tim Scott was as far as going out and stumping for him and saying the right thing. Not weighing and not making it clear that I want something in return. He made it very clear, I'm backing you because I'm back in the country like I said I was.
Now, Cheal, you said you'd run for governor. Like, you're thinking about running, like, here soon, like in the next couple of years?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I don't know that I'm going to, but yes, I'm looking at that route.
Is that public info? Like,
head to head with Tina Kotek. No, right now, my friends know. I had a conversation on a plane yesterday. I was trying to gain a vote. I was sitting next to this very nice woman. Now, one of the things on my platforms, aside from having the lynch mob and the gypsy jokers getting deputized, which is figurative, I'm being a little bit serious about that, by the way. I'm having a talk with this woman, and I feel that there's work and there's having a job. And I think that there's a difference. I think if you have a reasonable expectation to get dirty and or sweaty, that you work. And if you don't have a reasonable expectation to get dirty and or sweaty, you have a job. Both are very good. But I'm going to bring a dignity back to the labor force, not to the guy whose kids go to school. I'm going to bring it to the guys whose kids that built the school. And all I'm going to do is quite simply, instead of working 30 years to retire, if you give me 20 years in a trade, I will retire you. You will have a little bit more time. Right now, they got to work 4 months a year for free. The government takes their money, but they're taking it from the plumber, the same as they are from the guy that owns the car lot. And there's an argument for flat tax. I don't have a problem with it, but there's also an argument to have appreciation for somebody that actually contributes and builds something, that he has a little bit of time to spend with his family at some point before he's got a bad back and bad knees because he was putting in labor. Now, my father was a plumber, so this comes from a certain place, but they aren't the same. Working and having a job are not the same. And I get credit a lot, Patrick, for how hard I work. But I don't. I take the compliment because it's nice when people say it, but I'm not dirty and or sweaty. My father worked hard. That's who worked hard, who didn't feel like it and put on his boots every day at 5:30 and walked out that door. That's a hard worker.
By the way, Rob, you just pulled this up. Can you show this real quick? Look how red Oregon is outside of. I mean, that's
which is going to be sold on Zillow as soon as I get the authority,
right.
Patrick.
But
yeah,
PBD, if you go to any state in the union, I mean, you can maybe probably find this. It's always blue in the major epicenter cities. Go to any state. Go to Alabama. You'll see the capital of Alabama will be blue, and then everything else is a sea of red. It's actually insane. The cities, the urban centers all go blue, and the rural areas, the suburbs, all go red. Yeah, this is in Alabama right here. I don't know if you can show the entire United States.
I get
but
that's how it is. Oregon yes. was dramatically in a smaller portion that was blue. So it's going to be exciting to see you running here soon. To have a to have him as in that debate, all of a sudden everyone's going, what are you doing tonight? I'm watching the Oregon governor debate. Really? I am. Why? Cheal's in it. It's going to be entertaining.
Before we shift gears, just one last political question. You potentially become one of a very few handful of former professional major athletes that have become a politician, right? I mean, Jesse Ventura became a governor of Minnesota.
Yes, he did.
There was
Bill Bradley.
Bill Bradley, New York. Tommy Tuberville, he was the coach of Auburn, I want to say. Senator. He's now in Alabama, senator in Alabama. Steve Garvey, the pitcher, I think he's becoming running for senator in California.
He's in the finals.
So, do you look at some of these archetypes and be like, all right, cool. This is what these guys did to curry votes, curry favor. This is how athletes have transitioned to the political world.
I will tell yes, I do, but I largely look at them for what not to do. I don't respect athletes, for one. I don't respect an adult that plays a game. Even if you're in a cage and fighting, I get credit, you were a macho. I'm still playing a game. That's what kids do. And I do think it's one of those things. We had a guy run in Oregon. He was a really great guy, but all he could ever talk about was his time in the NBA and he had different egos in the locker room. I would go listen to him speak, and I stop doing that. People don't respect. We'll pay some tickets and we'll come watch, and you're out there with a jersey and a ball. Like you're getting this confused. I feel like we see a lot of celebrities doing that. Who's this gal? She was dating 50 Cent for a minute. I can see her.
Chelsea Handler?
Yeah.
How'd you guys know? Yes, Chelsea. She's supposed to leave. She made a deal. She said if Trump wins, I'm leaving the country. I think Madonna said it. A few people have said this. They don't understand how helpful they are. Like, you're not winning vote. You're turning people off. You sound like a kook. There's a guy right now. It's not Harvey Weinstein. Bob Reiner. He's a very big guy.
Rob Reiner.
There he is. And he's doing the same thing. He is effectively, he thinks he's bringing them over. And he's not. He's sounding like a kook. Like, I will just tell you as a Republican, I'm happy to have him. I'm happy to have him on the left. I hope he keeps doing that.
Well, Bill Maher called all these people out in a segment a few weeks ago. He's like, all these people who said, if Trump gets elected, I'm leaving the country. The list goes on and on of the people that said this. He goes, you're still here.
Yeah,
I still hear Bette Midler.
Yeah, I told him make it a new law, put into law. If you say those words and that thing doesn't happen, you have to leave. Yeah. Pack up your shit and leave. So, Cheal, what do you think about DeSantis?
But a deal's a deal, right? You gotta go.
If it comes
That's
out of your
verbal
mouth,
contract.
It's a verbal contract. So, Cheal, we live
George
in Florida.
Lopez.
Patrick moved here. I moved here. Adam's, Miami guy. We have a great governor, Governor DeSantis. He made a decision. He ran. What are your thoughts on him? His public speaking. What was his problem? Where did he fail in your eyes?
DeSantis is a stud. That's another tough guy, and his resume is impressive. This guy had military, and he had Harvard, and this guy was a really great guy. In my opinion, he had a lot of energy, and you could trust him. I feel like when he told you guys, Floridians, something, that he did his best to follow through on it. And there's a real honor in that, right? I mean, there's an honor in somebody that goes through the White House doors and does what they say they'll do. As simple as that sounds, we all can appreciate that. He shouldn't have ran. One of the great interviews that Trump did about him, and Trump said, my people have told me don't bring this up because nobody cares, but this is not loyal. I helped him to be governor. Yep. And as soon as he got power, he's turned the gun on me. And Trump said this in the interview. He said, my people have told me don't bring it up, that the American people don't care about that. And Trump said, but I think they do. You want to know something? Because I think Trump's telling the truth. I think that's part of his code. The smartest thing Joe Biden could have done is pardon Donald Trump. And I cannot believe he has not done it. He would have created such an internal problem with Trump, who does understand you do something for me. It's a big deal. He understands it. He's written about it. He's talked about it. It's why he didn't even accept money in 2016. Didn't get the credit for that. The people never give you credit when you don't raise money. I see so many politicians do that. I'm not taking PAC money. Nobody knows what PAC stands for. Take the goddamn money. Take it every single time. Right? But I'll just share with you.
But Cheal, with all due respect, and I mean this sincerely, the problem with Ron DeSantis is he doesn't have what you have. And what is that? The it factor. Things have astronomically changed in politics since the advent of social media, since basically 2010, since Facebook basically showed up, Instagram showed up, YouTube became pervasive. Unless you have the it factor, unless you're a showman, we're the attention economy, eyeballs equals votes and equals money. If you can mirror that and match that with policy, you have a winner right there. So, I mean, we're learning what your policies are, but you have what Vivek has. You have the ability to garner attention. That, to me, is the biggest problem.
If I can support the point you just made and further that, Joe Biden is saying that he's not going to show up for the debates. And before, Trump said, I'm not going to show up for the debates. That's not a political statement, but they're playing that game right now. They don't have to, and they would have had to have before social media. To your point, there was nowhere else to get camera time. There was nowhere else to get your message out. You had to walk on that. Now, you don't have to go. You could hold your iPhone up and do it right now. You can make it like Kanye did with the Super Bowl commercial. And I think that's a very interesting concept. I think that it really has empowered the people. And speaking of that, this will be down the road, but people need to be very grateful for Elon Musk. Very grateful for what he's doing, or we would have so much control and so much what you can't say. I'm just here misinformation and you're a liar and this guy's on perjury. It's like, man, when I was in the 4th grade, it was the first time our teacher ever took us to the library, and there was 2 kinds of stories. There was fiction and nonfiction. So I don't know what this misinformation and you're a liar and you're creating perjury and you're trying to confuse me. I don't know what that is. There's only 2 kinds of stories. Some are true and some aren't. What's the big deal? I don't really understand what the big deal was. You've got a level of obligation to be able to see through it.
One of the biggest comedy shows is happening tonight, right? You guys know what's happening tonight?
What's happening?
The State of the Union.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is going to have to go up there and speak. I'm looking so forward to that.
And you know what Trump's doing?
What?
He's doing a live reaction.
Yeah. Oh.
To the state. I think Tucker is as well. I think let's see how Joe Biden's comedy act goes.
Because by the way, you can't fake that, right, Pat? He has to go up and he has to speak.
What do you think is going to happen? You think Joe's going to be running? You think August 13th at DNC they're going to be announcing somebody else? What are your thoughts?
Oh no, it'll be Biden. Now you do have to understand. I'm sure that you guys do, but the American people do not. This is an act. When they're saying that Joe Biden is absent and there's nobody there and people are controlling him, he doesn't even watch the meeting. He only says what his handlers say. That's the act. That's what he's bet on. He knows people are saying that. He knows that's bad, and he continues to say things at press conference like, they don't want me to answer this. I'll be in trouble if I do this. That's the character. He has hedged the bet on no matter how bad things are, if I can distance myself, right? I think that if you're running for office, you personally have to have a conviction. I think that because everybody that I've ever seen and liked did. This is the first time. I mean, Joe Biden, not for nothing, he's a Catholic, and he's the real deal. I mean, he's at church every Sunday. Catholics, make no mistake, are for life. But he is not. He is one of the most liberal on choice, and he has said, I don't believe in it. I think it's murder, but I'm not going to force my beliefs on the people. Say, I don't get that, Joe. I don't get that. If you're not going to force your beliefs on the people, I don't understand why you're doing this. I don't understand what convict. Now it's just a job. Now you just have a job. You're not actually running. You're not actually there.
Well, that's his base.
For good reason.
So you think he's running? He's the guy?
Oh, yes. Yes. He's the guy. And I'm so sorry to cut you off, but you were paying compliments to people with the it factor. You know who's got it, sadly, is Newsom. And they better start watching. Because that guy can handle himself on a stage.
Did you see, Rob, if you can go to, I think I sent it to you guys in a group text about Newsom when he's being asked, I have it right here. I'm going to put a thumbs up in it. Just go find that one right there. He's being asked about when, this is about the Panera Bread, the $20 minimum wage. If you have that, pull that up. It's on Instagram. I just put a thumbs up. You should be able to see it. He's flat out being asked by this guy interviewing him, saying, hey, this $20 thing you did, and you did a favor for Panera Bread, what is that all? It says, you know what? All this stuff you guys are talking about, it's just not true. It's just not true. It's just not true. Do you see it, Rob?
And it's true.
Yeah, if you can share. And then they go back and show the clip of him. Originally says, well, that's part of the deal. When you're making deals, you have to make deals. And one of the things we have to do is we have to do this. Watch this here. Go ahead. Just refresh and then turn off the, there you go.
Around bakeries and this and that, but in relationship to this story, it's absurd. Period.
Well, you said it absurd, but when somebody brought that to your attention earlier,
there's a provision in this bill that exempts bakeries, carving out essentially Panera and Boudin.
I mean, that's part of the sausage making. That was part of 257, the original bill, and we went back and forth, and there was part of the negotiation. It's the nature of negotiation.
Well, it's part of the sausage making. It's a coincidence that this new minimum wage law did not impact a campaign contributor of yours.
It does impact the
Okay. So do you know the whole story behind this or no?
No, this is new to me, but no one's like it.
So this is 2 days ago. So California announces a $20 minimum wage to fast food restaurants or restaurants with 100 plus employees, give or take. That's the number. Except for bakeries such as Panera Bread, because the guy is the largest franchisee owner in America, What's the guy's name? He owns $4 billion. It's a $4 billion company that owns franchises. Just type in the largest franchise owner in America, top 7, and his name comes up. Type in the largest franchise owners in America, or, you know, it says top 7 on there. Anyways, the guy's a $4 billion guy, and he's given Newsom $164,000.
All right.
Okay. So he's being asked the question, is that him? What is the guy's name, though?
On one of the topics last week. I'll find his name.
You should have the guy's name.
What is this? They're hiding it.
Rob, is that the one or that's not the one? Is that the company's name?
I'm searching still.
Okay. Well, anyway, so this guy's got this biggest company of owning franchises, and then he's being asked the question, and Newsom's like, nah, never happened, and then you see the video saying it's part of the sausage. What do you think? Like, you think America's going to fall for that trap if he does run because he is so smooth, so good at deflecting and spinning?
Oh, yeah.
They're going to fall for it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, this works 50% of the time. I mean, 50% of the time, this works every time. This has been the Democrats' great move, and it might even be a problem with the Republicans, where the Republicans come in and they're real honest, at least when it comes fiscally. They will let you know that your debt is going to ruin the economy. They will let you know how far back your kids are going to be. It's one of these spots. Take Barack Obama, by the way, and he was as good of a orator as anybody, but I mean, he promised laptops. You know, if he won, you were going to have a new car in your driveway. Your kids were going to be able to go to college. You were going to have an extra vacation every year. Like, I mean, he said these things. As ridiculous as they were, he said these things.
Yeah.
And it works a lot of the time. And who isn't going to vote for that idea versus, the Rand Paul, which is, no, we're going to tighten down and we're going to buckle down. And here's why. Like, you're never going to be able to explain that. I was telling you guys that yesterday I was flying out here. I was sitting next to a woman on the plane, and she was a very nice woman. She's headed out. I mean, yesterday is a Wednesday. She's flying out to Miami to board a cruise ship this morning and go on a cruise. And it's her third one in the last year. And she tells me that her husband acquired some great wealth. She's having some drink. She got a beautiful ring on. I even told her, I said, somebody likes you. Look at this ring. She told me she got a carat for every decade. So it's 4.5 carats. They've been married 45 years.
Wow.
Very nice woman is what I'm attempting to say. And she said, what do you do? And I never know how to answer that question. I mean, I retired from fighting. I think of myself as, do I say I'm retired? I don't know. I don't like that. An able-bodied guy shouldn't be retired. I don't know how to answer that question. And I told her, well, I don't know if it's what I want to do, but what I'm going to do is run for governor soon. And so she said to me, well, what's going to be different about you? And I said, well, if you're a laborer, and I gave my little labor speech about the plumbers. And I said, if you actually go out and work, you're only going to have to work 20 years. I will retire you. If you go get a journeyman's license, you put in 20 years of actual work, you're retired. And she says, well, wait a minute. What do you mean actual work? And I said, well, if you get dirty and or sweaty, like my father, who was a plumber, gave her the whole speech, just like I delivered it for you guys a minute ago. And she says, well, wait a minute. Why do you think plumbers are something special? She said, I think it's therapists. So what do you mean by that? She goes, I'm a tax and spend liberal. She goes, let me let you know that I'm a tax and spend liberal, but I think that therapists, she goes, because I go for the underdog. I said, Miss, I don't understand. I just met you. What are you talking about? I'm putting plumbers forward and you're putting therapists forward. You believe that the therapist, who is largely college educated and is in a nice fancy room and has all the answers, that's their job, versus the plumber? You think he wants to be out there doing that with his time, or in fact he's having to do that with his time? And we never quite saw eye to eye on that, and I just wasn't sure how we were so far off. I thought, what am I missing here? And she says to me, she was very nice. She liked me, I liked her, but she says to me, are you a Trump guy? And I said, well, yeah. And I said, yeah, I did The Apprentice, and so I had a little bit of a relationship. I just kind of answered it like that. And she says, well, do you believe that he created an insurrection on January 6th? Now, that's a huge deal for an Oregonian to ask me, because we burnt our city to the ground. It is still gone. And nobody got arrested. A guy got killed in the street on camera. Nobody got arrested. Louis Vuitton and Chanel, all their purses are gone. Nobody got arrested. And they're telling me that was an insurrection. And I simply said this. I said, young lady. She's about 75 years old. They love it when you say that, by the way. I said, young lady, I've written 2 books. One of them was a New York Times bestseller. I am from a family of attorneys. My sister's the head of the school board, and my mother's a teacher. I'm what you would consider a smart guy. I can't spell insurrection, but I don't think you can either. I don't think you've ever heard the word before. I don't think until Trump was accused of it that you've ever written it down or spoken it to a friend before. So before we go any further, I don't think that you really believe there was an insurrection. If we don't know what it means, and he hasn't been charged with it, and I kind of won her over with that. That meant something to her. She did not like me, and she let me know I'm probably not going to be voting for you in a very nice way. But I did make it somewhere with that point. When I told her, I don't think you can spell it, I got somewhere with that.
What did she mean by the therapist, by the way?
What did she mean by the therapist?
What did she do? Did she work for a living, or she never worked because her husband made money?
That she used to be a farmer. And she said she worked real hard on those crops, and she would go home and put her head down on the pillow and fall right asleep. Then when she grew up and got through college, she became a therapist. And she said she would help people with their problems that they would call a 988 number. And that it was so exhausting and tiresome that she would go home and put her head down and fall asleep just as well as when she picked crops all day. But she kept saying, I'm for the underdog. And I didn't understand. How is the therapist the underdog in comparison to the plumber? And she told me, and I was trying to explain to her how important it is. From you and I's perspective, like this is a Wednesday and you're flying to Miami to go on your third cruise. In the middle of a week, you're flying to go on your third cruise. There's guys that don't have a choice, and people love to say life's all about choices. Some guys don't have a choice. They've got to eat today. It's just a reality. If you get to do with your time what you choose, you're very fortunate, and you really should feel that way. And if somebody else is not, for whatever reason, including choices, he should not have to work 4 months a year for the government and put in 30 years just like the next guy. He just shouldn't. And I just didn't understand her concept. And she was telling me that she had read a book and that as long as you put your heart and soul into it, you can be just as fulfilled as anybody else. And I was like, man, I've heard all that self-help stuff too. Yeah. I said, ma'am, we're on an airplane. If you and I had a magic wand and we could make everybody on this plane either a plumber or a therapist, they get to choose, but then and it has to be one of those two. Do you really think this is a 50-50 split? Would you choose to be a plumber? You just told me that you can be just as happy and just as fulfilled. And plumber, I'm of course not talking about the guy that runs the water through the pipes. I'm talking about a laborer. I'm talking about a tradesman. I'm talking about a guy that doesn't get to call in sick for COVID. I work for ESPN. I got a year off and they paid me. What a wonderful company. It was so nice of them. It embarrassed me. Then they've got other guys that they called essential work. I would never, if I was a leader, I would never tell somebody they're non-essential work. And I just thought that it was a real mistake. And I remember when it was happening, I remember watching people around. You're never going to get them back. If you start paying them now to stay home, you're not going to get them back.
Well, listen, I can't wait to see. So governor's the only level you want to go. You have no aspirations above that.
Governor's where I want to go. By the way, what do you think's higher, a governor or a senator? Because I think most people think senator. I think so too.
No way.
Yeah. There's only one governor.
You're CEO of a state. No way.
Agree.
It's governor. There's no way I'll put it ahead of. By the way, breaking news just came in right now from ESPN. Rob, if you want to pull this up, did you see this or no? Breaking news from ESPN just right now. Jake Paul is set to fight Mike Tyson July 20th.
Swear to God.
Yep.
Pull it up. Right now, ESPN.
Look at that.
Jake Paul, Mike Tyson set for July 20th on Netflix.
Wow. On Netflix.
On Netflix.
Chael, can I ask
Who's favored in that fight?
Because I saw your podcast where you were talking about, was it Canelo?
Yes.
And how they're talking crap. They don't want to fight him. He's diluting the sport. The guy's bringing the most eyeballs to the sport. Absolutely. He's saving boxing. Question, Cheal, this fight, is there a conversation beforehand with like a mic, with a Tyson, like, hey, don't kill this guy? Is that conversation had, or is it go for it?
It wouldn't be that clear. They would use a different language, such as instead of calling it a fight, I actually don't see the word fight. They're doing this new thing where they call it exhibition.
Exhibition,
and
right.
The government, fighting and combat, MMA and boxing, it is the only sport anywhere except communist countries that is overseen by the government. I mean, when they took Saddam and his kids down, the first thing they did is free the soccer team. Only communist regimes oversee sport, except for the United States in combat. And the reason I bring that to you is it was just so corrupt. The government got involved. You cannot take it easy on a guy. I've heard Floyd try to say that before. I was carrying him for entertainment. Like, that's actually imprisonable. That doesn't happen. But they got this new scam where they're calling it an exhibition. They're selling tickets to an exhibition as opposed to a fight. So what the difference is it looks the same on TV. The commission that oversaw your other fights and even your co-main event gets up and goes in the back. They've now clocked out for the night. You have 3 other judges that are not licensed or real judges, and then you have an announcer just say the conclusion that they came to. The commission will not allow that to happen in the ring. So if you guys happen to see Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., they brought them right outside the ring onto the ramp, and then I think it was a draw, and they raised both of their hands.
Yeah, right.
So that's the theatrics behind that, like that one-word exhibition versus fight. Fight is actually a legal term because it's overseen by the government. I just wanted to share that with you because this is very interesting. I was with Mike Tyson 1 week ago in Saudi Arabia, and I'm sorry for that name drop, but it was a big deal. Like, he's got an aura. When Mike Tyson walked in, I was going to interview him real quick for the PFL with ESPN. It was a real thrill for me. Guys, the first thing I thought is how lean he was.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. Yeah, he's ridiculous.
He's opened a gym in Saudi Arabia. I thought they just attached his name to it, and he's really out smoking weed all day. But Francis Ngannou was claiming that he's training him. Mike is allegedly at that gym with Francis on a regular basis. I can't confirm any of that, but this is the story, the way they told it 1 week ago, and now all of a sudden you see this announcement.
By the way, Mike's going to be 58 years old at this fight, and Jake's going to be 27.
Wow. Holy crap, 30 years.
And can Mike still beat Jake or no? At the 30-year difference, Jake gets the edge.
Jake will beat him, but yeah, Mike could go with him.
You think Jake's going to beat Mike Tyson, Cheal?
Hey, Jake's the real deal. I mean,
Cheal, Mike Tyson.
He's 60 years
Mike
old.
Mike Tyson could be 188 years old, okay? Like Rocky Marciano and Coming to America. He's going to be, look at him now.
Yep. And this is old footage. This is him training for Roy Jones, which I believe was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But going off of what Chael said, Adam, I'm telling you right now, it's an exhibition.
Yeah.
If Mike does that to a Jake Paul, it's going to be ugly.
Okay.
Even at 60.
But let me ask this question.
Right.
Let's ask both scenarios. This is what you do professionally. So go both stories. Okay. Fights scheduled for what day? July 20th? Okay, July 20th at midnight, stories written. Mike Tyson knocks out Jake Paul. Okay. Midnight, July 20th, stories written. Jake Paul knocks out Mike Tyson. July 20th, midnight. Decision, Jake. Decision, Mike. Okay, whatever. Which one is a bigger deal? Is it a bigger deal if Mike beats Jake Paul or Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson?
So to use history as our trajectory to the future, and to use Mike, Evander Holyfield. Some of the most famous fights ever, Mike versus Evander. But Evander fought a guy from MMA, Vitor Belfort, who was just a great fighter. But Vitor was not a boxer. He was good at boxing, but he wasn't a boxer. And they boxed roughly 2 years ago. It wasn't long after Tyson versus Roy Jones. And it was flat scary. Evander should not have been in there. He could not move. He couldn't move by the way of punches. He couldn't move offensively. They had shown some training footage of him, and the commission took massive heat for allowing this to happen. And the commission had to come forward. I think it was here in Florida, by the way. It was off the top of my head. Yeah, this was him, and people thought, okay, he's playing this for the cameras. He's playing slow. He's playing like he's learning these techniques. I thought it too. I mean, I look at him. He looks good. That's Evander Holyfield. I just saw Mike do it. Mike looked pretty good. I also thought that this was gamesmanship. And Vitor Belfort, who has never boxed, put him away so fast.
Oh, wow.
This is an Olympic gold medalist you're watching. Vitor, who had never done it, put him away so fast that it ended Vitor's career. They would not book him again. They labeled him like an elderly abuser. How dare you? How could you do this? Vitor never got another fight. Vitor's training. He's right here in Florida.
What a perspective.
He couldn't get it. So that's just the thing that you deal with in fighting that Jake Paul will be up against. He'll get teased for taking this fight, for one. He'll get teased for that. He'll work himself through that. But, yeah, if he goes out there and cleans his clock, they're going to come down on him.
They're going to come down on Jake.
Yeah.
Now, if Mike wins, what's the story? Like the greatest, unbelievable Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'll really be something. I believe that was Florida on Evander, but wherever it was, I'm quite sure it was, but wherever it was, that commission took a lot of heat for allowing that to happen. Hey, you've got footage. You saw this for the world. You were not without knowledge. You're experts in this space, and you should have let him fight. And this was a thing. And there was really nobody to raise up and sue or take them on. But if they would have, Evander would have. They would have lost. And I only say this to you because that will be the next part of ESPN's story. Who's sanctioning this? How many rounds is it? Is it licensed? What weight are they going to go? Mike Tyson's never fought anything but heavyweight. Jake Paul's never fought anything but 185 pounds. Most commissions will only let you move up one weight class. That would be a representative of 3 weight classes, which isn't legal unless you throw in this made-up word of exhibition.
How old was George Foreman?
And by the way,
his
I can't bang on this too much in case ESPN's carrying it, right? Like, I got to do my job and sell it. But
no, it's Netflix.
Oh, it is Netflix.
Wait, well, George Foreman fought until, I want to say his 50s.
Yeah, won the world title. 49.
Okay, so, but George Foreman, Mike Tyson, a lot of comparisons there. Big, badass dudes. I could be dead wrong. I don't see a Mike Tyson legacy, baddest man on the planet. And PBD's interviewed him multiple times. He's been on the podcast. I don't see how he can just go take an L to Jake Paul. legacy on the line.
But
What?
Adam, but 30 years his senior, like he's
Buddy,
30 years older.
Sometimes grandpa's got to whoop up on some kids.
I don't know, bro. The engine has to be slow. You like think about it. Right now, I get out of breath running to the bathroom here. Imagine 60 years old.
Vanny, with all due respect, you're not Mike Tyson.
Adam, but guess what? Age is still, he's 60 years old.
Sure.
It's
58. So you think
Who do you have? Who do you have in the fight?
I have Jake Paul, but I will tell you, I'm fascinated by the Mike Tyson story. Like, I thought he looked pretty good against Roy Jones. Roy then came out and fought an MMA guy who I'm good friends with, Anthony Pettis, and Anthony beat Roy. So I thought, well, maybe Mike and Roy wasn't quite what I thought it was. And then Evander had come out, and Evander got cleaned up to the point that it ended Vitor's career. Nobody will book him anymore. So my point is, to quite know where Mike out is a little bit tough, which brings you to why is Mike doing it? And when he fought Roy, he got a very good payday, but he was offered, and this is before Evander fought Vitor, and we knew he was offered $20 million to fight Evander. And I feel like that would have fixed his life. Like, I lost to guys in high school. I never was a state champion. I was second. If I go back and do that match again right now, even at 45 years old, I would go take on Doug Lee right now. And I feel like Mike would have too, particularly for $20 million, and he didn't. He passed on it. I then, to insert myself, got offered a fight with Mike in Abu Dhabi. They were going to pay me $2 million, which is a ton. I've never boxed before, but I got to fight Mike. They're going to pay him $12 million.
Jeez.
And we had an LOI, and everything's going behind the scenes, and it was his wife pulled it and said, nope, he's never going to fight again. Really? And he did it. He not only
How long ago was that?
Didn't fight. It was right after the Roy Jones fight, about 6 months after that, which in my head is about 2 or 3
We
years.
watched the Roy Jones Mike Tyson fight at your house in Boca at the time.
Roy was running.
No, Tyson beat his ass.
Oh, no. But they gave a decision.
They gave a tie. And we looked at each other like, come on, man. Yeah. Tie. And Roy Jones looked out of shape.
And then at the best part of the whole thing was at the end of the fight, he's like, well, respect to you, the fact that you're showing up like this, Roy Jones, and, you look, for your age.
Jim Gray interviewed him, yeah.
And then Mike's like, wait a minute, am I, do you realize I'm older? Like, what was the age difference between the two, Rob? Go a little lower?
Roy Jones is probably in his late 40s.
Yeah, Mike was older. Mike's like, why are you acting like he's the old guy? I'm the old guy. I'm 54. But, no, I mean, first of all, Jake Paul, the fact that he pulls this off to put it together, you got to give it to these brothers on how good of a job they're doing promoting.
Sure. Oh, he's selling out arenas. He had Madison Square Garden booked against Tyson Fury's brother. They ended up canceling the show, but he had Madison Square Garden booked, with a $1 million gate. He beat Anderson Silva. He beat Tyron Woodley. I mean, he can box. He's a very hard worker. I even wondered to give him credit. Like, where does he find the time? I mean, it takes a long time to be in shape to do something like that, particularly for 8 or 9 or 10 rounds, which is what he fought Nate Diaz for. And, where does he have that time? He appears to be very busy. He does a lot of stuff like this, and he's got his hand in a few things. And, you have to put those hours in. He must be putting those hours in. He must be up early, and he must be.
The numbers showed the Holyfield fight against Vitor sold 150,000 pay-per-view tickets. Okay, pay-per-view fight. So on this one, Mike Jake, what do you think something like this is going to do?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. They could do $1 million. $1 million in pay-per-view a decade ago would be what it would do. That's a totally different business now with digital and the way they're doing it, not to mention all the streaming and the TikTok is stealing content. It's a very different world, but that's where I'm going back to why is Mike doing this? That's why I'm having a hard time with the article. If it wasn't ESPN.com, I would be saying, we're getting roasted here.
It can be massive.
What's he getting paid, Rob? Is it shown what he's getting paid?
I'd be very, how much do you think, if you had to guess, how much do you think?
Well, he said he didn't do it for $12 million. This is a $20 million fight.
But this is Netflix just throws away money, bro.
So here you go. It's Hollywood Reporter 1 hour ago. Terms of the deal, streamed to the match were not disclosed. Rob, if you just go to Hollywood Reporter, you'll see it here. Source familiar with the deal framed it as being significant for past recent fights. Paul and Tyson have been guaranteed payouts in the single-digit millions while also securing a percentage of the pay-per-view revenue. So, I mean, that's single digits is definitely not going to be $2 million. Could it be $5 to $9 million? Okay, and then if you're able to promote it and drive
percentage of revenue. That's the big one right there.
Jake knows how to do it. Jake knows how to sell and
fully agree.
But Pat, it's on Netflix. So how's it pay-per-view if it's on Netflix?
You go pay for Netflix.
No, but I'm saying, but imagine like pay-per-view is like for the event. If it's on Netflix, whoever has Netflix is watching it.
The match will include for all Netflix subscribers, though tickets will be sold to fill the 80,000 seat arena, AT&T Dallas,
In Texas.
There will also be a co-main event and undercard bouts. Go a little low, Rob.
And they're going to use a pay-per-view model as well with Netflix.
Mike Tyson, one of the biggest icons, Jake Paul, gives on Saturday, July 20, pure drama in Texas. Okay, he's promoting it. The boxing match is significant expansion. Netflix's live sports strategy. The streaming giant inked a 10-year deal with WWE valued at $5 billion in January, but executives noted that at the time that WWE blurs the line between sports and entertainment. Instead, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul is a little closer to Netflix Slam, which saw tennis star Carlos Alcaraz against Nadal face off in Las Vegas this past weekend, or the Netflix Cup, which was very interesting direction Netflix is going.
Yeah.
Good for them. I'm actually really curious. By the way, the night you made $8.8 million, how many buys did you guys have?
We had, it was under $1 million, but it was close. We called it $1 million. If you ever hear me tell the story, but it wasn't. But it was just under. It was 936. It was something along these lines.
Well, one more thing, Cheal, with you kind of went who Jake has fought in the past. The criticism of Jake is that he's fighting these sort of washed up UFC guys. He beat up your boy Ben Askren, your guy, Tyrone Woodley.
Anderson.
But the one guy he lost to was an actual boxer, which was Tyson Fury's brother, Tommy Fury. There's got to be some element of a boxer, Mike Tyson, versus a UFC guy, no?
I would sure think so. I mean, I hear everything that you're saying, and I tend to lean in that same direction. I remember when I got the call and I agreed to fight Tyson, as much bravado as I had, I remember feeling that in my stomach, go, oh, man. Like, that's a tough night out, and they were going to do it in Abu Dhabi, and they're going to put it on a rooftop. It's kind of like this crazy idea. I would tell you what, I wasn't showing up except for the money. I mean, I had that, man, he goes to the body, and he goes, and I called my coach. I said, can I beat this guy? And he said, man, he's 50 years old. We'll whip this guy, champ. Let's get to work. But I wasn't necessarily feeling that inside. So I tend to lean towards you, that it is a sport, that there is a science, that experience does matter. I didn't think he looked that bad against Roy. But then when Roy went on and lost to, a 145-pounder and Evander ended up getting beat, I thought, well, maybe I got to look at that again. I don't know. Everything about this surprises me. They're not going to fill up 80,000. That's just simply not. This is a neat story. The fact that Patrick's covering is probably the biggest press they're going to get, because Mike's not going to help him. He's not going to jump in there and pitch in and start doing media tours. That's never what he's done. And how's Jake going to tell the story? He's going to get the same criticism he always has, that you're fighting this older guy without experience. Jake had a fight on Saturday. Mike had a fight, which we're discussing, was either 2 or 3 years ago, and none of us can seem to remember. And before that, it was a career ago. So I'm just saying, this is not a massive fight. What I'm most interested in is the Netflix component of it. Saudi Arabia is throwing that kind of money that could get Mike's attention. They flew him out for the show that I told you I was at a week ago just to be there. And I would imagine that was a pretty healthy ticket. You probably had to fly in private. And my point is, if they're not the ones funding it, and we don't know for sure what pay-per-view is going to do, and nobody's selling no fight is selling 80,000 seats, I don't know where this money's coming. I'm a little surprised that Mike wouldn't go beat me up on a rooftop.
Is the fight? Where is the fight?
From more.
Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
This is AT&T. So if 80,000, you need a storyline and a conflict, right? How is Jake going to be able to spin this storyline and a conflict? Okay, so how would you do it? You get this. You have to sell this ticket. You're about who, what, when, where, why. How would you take this angle if you're Jake?
This is a very tough one. Here's what most promoters do, is what we're seeing right here, versus what Dana White does. Dana White, for one night, will make less money, but it will always be a play into something else. He will not put on a fight that doesn't have at least a what if, that he can then parlay into a next fight. He will always have a story. If it's not for a championship, it's got to be a personal feud. If it's not a personal feud, it's got to be a contendership. There's rules to it. The problem with this fight, which promoters make this all the time, there's no significance. The night that Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather was one of the great pieces of fiction of my life. Donald Trump was going around telling people there was fake news, but I didn't believe it. I believed everything I saw in the news. I was young at that time. That was a new term. I called the fight, and we had to tell the world it was sold out. I'm standing in the arena, and it's not even close to sold out. This was one of the worst pieces of business, Conor versus Floyd, but it was advertising. This guy got $100 million, and this guy they might have, but somebody got their ass kicked. That fight did not do very well. One of the problems going into this fight when they had the protections, they had no grudge. There was no title. It wasn't for a ranking. Conor wasn't coming back. He wasn't even under contract. And it became a problem. They thought that UFC and the boxer would say, it ended up that it didn't. They created a belt. This is for the $1 million championship, and they had this belt, and they threw it down, and I'm only sharing for you. Like, that's how important it is that they got desperate and created a belt, and that still bombed. There's not a story with Mike.
That's what I mean, if you can't come up with it, I don't know how Jake's going to come up with it. Rob, can you pull up a little bit on this and see how many pay-per-view, how many buys did these guys have? Go up. Does it tell you how many? This was the biggest one, right? I mean, Mayweather, Conor was absolutely insane. What's the pay-per-view? Can you see it? Okay, maybe it's going to take you a minute to do that. Just Google and see how many pay-per-view. How many pay-per-view buys? Mayweather, Conor. What's the number? 4.3 million. Damn. Showtime announced December 14, 2017, 4.3 million buys. By the way, that's more than Conor Khabib. Conor Khabib was 2.4 million.
Great memory.
Can you pull up Conor Khabib? Is it 2.4 million? 2.4 million. Unfreaking believable. So 4.3 million at what number? What dollar amount would that be? Is that a 69, 89, 99?
I thought they were doing 70 for the Conor. I thought it was 69. They upped it. If we're wrong, it's 59. But yeah, it was something beautiful.
Let's say 69. 69 times 4, that's 4.3 million. Let's say $300 million. And the rumor had it that Mayweather took 2, Conor took 100. I think I've heard you say Mayweather's never made more than 60 million in a night.
Yep.
Is what you've said. So,
which is a beautiful payday, by the way.
It is a beautiful payday, but to say...
But exaggerated.
Yeah.
And can they get away with that? Can guys get away with saying how many buys they had on a night or how much money they made on a fight?
Oddly they can. Like, if you want to be the biggest boxing match of all time, all you had to do was put out a press release that lied more than the previous press release. One thing that you will not have is you will not have the president of Time Warner or the president of DirecTV or the president of Cox ever coming out and confirming those. It will always be somebody with top rank said. Conor McGregor's team has leaked that. I mean, Conor and Floyd tried to rematch. They wanted to do it again, and nobody would book it. And the other question that nobody asked when Floyd is being paid $100 million or Conor's being paid $100 million, who wrote the check? Somebody came in the back and wrote the check. Who's that playboy? Why have we never heard his name before? And I only bring that to you that, yes, it is largely exaggerated.
Rob, can you pull that the link I just pulled up? Or if you just want to go on Google and type, what did Conor and what did Mayweather and Conor make? What did Mayweather and Conor make? Go to the Wikipedia of the fight, and it's going to take you, oh, you're writing a paragraph. Okay, go to, that's the one right there. Zoom in if you can, go a little lower. Okay, right there. So what's even more impressive that the time it took for you to read up to this point, Mayweather made over $1 million. Now, Mayweather is slated to earn pretty penny, about $250 to $300 million. 100 of that just for showing up. And 150 to 200 million pay-per-view. That's more than the GDP of some countries. So why would AOL write a number like that? That he made that? Is Mayweather's publicist? Are they calling him and they're saying, "Listen, I can't give you the exact facts, but let's just say he's going to make around $250 million."
Yes.
Is that kind of how it works?
Yes. I mean, this is not only confirmed by AOL, which is a great source. This was confirmed by Forbes. Floyd Mayweather was written up by Forbes as the highest paid athlete on earth, and he won that for a couple of years in a row. It's like, guys, the numbers that he's telling you, he's just saying the words. There's no confirmation. I think I've asked a very fair question. If he got $100 million, who wrote the check? That's a simple question. If Steve Wynn is writing the check, if Lorenzo Fertitta is writing the check, they're going to get credit for it. They're going to make it known. There's going to be a presentation. There's going to be the great big phony silly check. There's going to be a number of things. Nobody walks in the back and hands somebody $100 million and doesn't get credit for it. It's never happened.
It's interesting you're saying this because for Forbes, if you want to make it on the Forbes list, it's audited financials, I believe, where it's kind of like, hey, your net worth is XYZ. You send audited financials. Audited financials are whatever. It's going to cost you $500,000, $250,000 to do audited financials, depending on how technical it is. And then Forbes ranks you based on that. And that's when sometimes they come back and they say, well, such and such claim their net worth is this, but it's really this. And some people go back and forth with it. But I actually wonder how they measure the earnings of these athletes. Because here it says 285. Can you pull up, Rob, Forbes? How does Forbes verify billionaires' net worth? I wonder what because you know how Inc. 5000, they do like the 5,000 fastest growing companies. Okay. We also interviewed employees, managers, and advisors. Uncovering their fortune required us pour over thousands of securities. No, that's not what for some methodology, we crunch numbers. Okay, click on that. Let's see what that story says. Do they ask for audited financials? Go a little lower. Zoom in. Where's the when possible met restore runs on virtually. We also interviewed employees. We took into all accounts and assets, stakes in public and private companies, real estate, art, yachts, planes, ranches, vineyards, jewelry. We factored in debt, charitable given, net worths for 2023. Okay, we interviewed their employees, handlers, asset managers, and financial advisors, rivals, peers, attorneys. That's pretty in-depth to do that with Forbes. Go a little lower. I wonder if they take that approach with every year we seek to improve our methodology, looking for ways to be more accurately uncover the measure of the wealth of the country's richest people. We purposely exclude dispersed family fortunes, though we list wealth belonging to. So, you know, maybe they have a method to their madness. I wonder.
I don't know if you want to read. This is and I sent it to Rob, but one of the greatest sources that see who's the richest person in the world is the Forbes real-time billionaires list. I sent that to you, Rob. And every day they're updating it. Boom, boom, boom. Keep scrolling down, Rob. You could see number one richest person in the world is Bernard Arnault, the LVMH, Elon Musk would do. But if you go over there, they see their methodology right there. I don't know if you want to hone in on that, but that's how they do it with the billionaires. I don't know how they do it with like fighters, for example.
If there is a way they do it, what are some of the individuals who are significantly tied to private companies will have their net worth updated once a day? Makes sense. If it's a private company, okay. Public, it's easy. You just kind of see, hey, you own 16% of it. The company's worth this much. Here's what you are. In cases like yesterday, Bezos passed up Musk.
Did he really?
Yeah, Bezos passed up Musk yesterday. This cannot be updated as of the second. If you just go on Google, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
No, but go on Google and type in Bezos past Musk net worth. Bezos past Musk net worth. Yeah, but I wonder, like, Jeff Bezos reclaimed 2 days ago the current net worth. Musk is now 198. Poor guy.
But it's crazy how they do it because they update it every day.
Yeah.
So, as today, Elon Musk made $625 million today. Jeff Bezos made $1.2 billion today. Bernard Arnault made $2.3 billion today. And you got to feel bad for Warren Buffett. He lost $316 million today, but he's the sixth richest person in the world at $132 billion.
Can we start a GoFundMe?
But that's how it works in the stock market.
Let's transition into like the big fight that's coming up Saturday. We'll be there. We're taking 25 of guys. We'll be there. We're looking forward to it. The fight, Sean O'Malley, right? Vera, Chito. So they've fought before. We've all seen what happened August 2020 during COVID. There was no audience. You saw how it ended. We know the highlight. First, what do you think is going to happen between these two guys when they fight? We had Sean on a couple days ago. You think it's going to, because like Vegas odds right now is minus 295 favoring O'Malley. What do you think is going to happen that night?
O'Malley is the favorite. In discussing that, Patrick, we'll get just as passionate as discussing, and we watched it. It was on video. What did your lion eyes tell you? Their first fight. So many people are saying, no, Chito was beating him when he hurt him. And so many other people are saying, no, Sean was kicking his butt until he got hurt. I was there live, and I thought that Chito surprised him. I think that Sean found himself in a fight that was harder than he expected it to be. And I will just tell you as an athlete, like nothing will make you fold or break you mentally more than when you find yourself in a contest that's harder than you thought it was going to be. Whatever that might be. It could be a swimming race when all of a sudden your heart's beating a little faster than you thought. Sean O'Malley has gotten so much better, but that's the same compliment I've got to give to Chito. Chito, when he fought O'Malley here, was 4-2, or he was 2-4. This is off the top of my head, but it was one of those two. He was just a guy. He was brought in to get beat up. And all of a sudden, he turned a corner. And now, like in his last fight, he knocked out Dominic Cruz, who's a guaranteed future Hall of Famer. I mean, Chito is the real number one contender. It's a really interesting match. There's something to be said for momentum, man. And they both got a lot of it. They both believe they're going to win. I know guys will tell you that all the time, I believe I'm going to win. That's not true. That's media. Generally, both guys know who's going to win when they walk out there, including the guy that knows it's not me.
Really? Both guys don't?
Yes. They will generally know.
I heard you talk about that with John Jones, where you're like, I just knew like something's going to happen here. Is that with every fight? Where was there any fight where like this one is a 50-50?
This is a broad stroke,
Right.
but yeah, like the greatest fights you've ever seen are when you have two guys that really think, I'm going to beat him, I should beat him, I want to beat him. Most other guys, I mean, it's like the animal kingdom, and you kind of know who's who. And in a sport like combat, all of a sudden your mind starts playing really weird tricks. Like, I got to get out of here safely. I'm going to lose either way. I can go to the emergency room, or I can find another way. What's going to look good for the cameras? I mean, these are just tricks that your mind plays. You know, then a guy, he gets in fight or flight. But I'm just saying, like, it could be one of those really hard spots. And generally, both guys do know when they're going out there who's going to win.
Do you think this is more 50-50 where both of them feel like I can beat the other guy?
I do.
Oh, that's a good fight then. So is this, I mean, obviously part of your job with ESPN, what you're doing is they're saying 299 is going to be a better card than 300. They're saying this is one of the best cards we've had in a long time. Do you agree with that?
300 is a beautiful card, but one way that I judge this is I'll look at the under. What's the biggest fight on the undercard? They got Curtis Blades versus a guy named Almeida Jalton, which is probably a #1 contendership at heavyweight. I mean, your most perennial class, and that's on an undercard. So in that regard, yes, it does speak to the strength of this card.
Don't they have our friend Dustin Poirier fighting as well?
Yes.
And Pat,
Peter, Dustin, there's a bunch. This is like a...
Dustin's the underdog. So sorry to cut you. Dustin's the underdog.
Right.
I don't agree with that at all, but Dustin's the underdog. I mean, that's when's the last time you could say that?
Yeah. He's the guy with one punch, he can finish a fight. Dustin's his fist, like, when you see Dustin's fist,
it's rocks.
You're like, this guy is. But anyways, it's exciting to see what happens. Do you think O'Malley is at a point right now where he has the ability to sell fights, promote them? Is he at that level where, shit talking, where he's capable of doing that? Or there's levels to the game, he's not at that level where it's a little bit of an act versus it's actual? What do you think he's at?
All right, he wants to be, there's 767 athletes under contract with Dana White, but there's 6 of them that keep the lights on. And that's it. There's nobody else that can draw.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we got about 6 guys. I'm throwing that number out. There could be 7, there could be 8. Is Conor licensed? Is he fighting? What's Ronda doing? I mean, it's one of those things. There are not very many stars. But the guys that are, the Conor McGregors, the Sean O'Malley's, the Israel Adesanyas, they realize that that's a competition of itself. They realize to be the face of this company is a competition. When I go to a press conference, I got to get more questions than you. I'll rig a press conference. I've done it plenty of times where I've put people in there for me to ask me questions so that I didn't get outdone by George St. Pierre when I'm on stage with him. But I'm competing for everything. And I'm keeping track, too. How long has he talked? How long have I talked? How many questions did he get? How many did I get? It's one of those things that some people don't even know that's a game. I've watched people get flown in from different countries to press conferences, and when they finally get one question thrown to them out of charity because they've been ignored all night, they will say, I don't do my talking here. I do it in the ring. I'll see you Saturday. Say, oh, for God's sakes, when you got on the airplane and came through immigration from Brazil to a press conference, there's no punches being thrown here. What do you mean I don't do my talking? That's all we're going to do today is talk. And I mean, but we hear that all the time. That's not like a new one. That'll be said tomorrow at a press conference. It's an interesting thing. You guys want to know what else is going down? Is Francis Ngannou fighting Joshua? And that's like tonight or tomorrow night.
Oh, really?
Are you guys
Anthony
excited
Joshua?
for that? Yes.
That's a fight.
First of all,
no one's talking about that. Does anyone?
I'm excited for that. I would say for me, it was when I saw him fight Fury, you're like, what was in a left? And it wasn't like a full-on connect. It wasn't full. Yeah. And you're like, that knocks him out and drops him? What is the, and then by the way, the entire time you're watching, in the eyes, Fury is a better, technical boxer. He knows what he's doing. He's, the concept of maybe underestimating what's going to happen. So does that mean Joshua has the advantage over Fury because he saw the fact that Ngannou could knock him out? So maybe he's preparing more than he did before, because at one point Joshua was the guy, right? Joshua was the guy that everybody was looking at. Do you think this is going to be the one fight that he's going to make a statement of potentially knocking out Joshua?
I am so stunned with where he is at in general. I don't have a good thing to predict about him as a boxer. And I was totally wrong. Like, I thought Fury's going to get him out of here. And I mean, in one round, this is a waste of time. And so did the world. That arena did not sell out. We're talking about Tyson's going to do 80,000. To put in perspective, Tyson Fury, who's a much bigger name, I would think, and Francis, who was the UFC champion at the time, did 18,900 seats. Just to put in perspective, and they were an average price of $200 a ticket. This is in Saudi Arabia, where I was 1 week ago, standing in the very building. I only share that because there's I'm not ready to say that Tyson and Paul are fighting. Like, I feel like there's just something more to that. But this fight, Patrick, I guess Francis is the real deal. I mean, I guess a guy that has never boxed went 10 rounds with the reigning heavyweight champion of the world. One judge said that he won. It was a split decision. A licensed judge said that he won. Teddy Atlas had to watch it 3 times to share his opinion. He thought that Fury won, but he said I had to watch it 3 times. It's possibly the most respected mind in boxing in all of America. I mean, Francis really, it was the most remarkable sporting event I've ever seen. And that pains me to see. Francis and I don't get along. It pains me. It was the most remarkable thing I've ever seen in sport.
So you think you got him winning? You got him beating Joshua?
No, but I can't guarantee it. I would have guaranteed you. I'd have told you he's going to look like a fool. I'd have told you that Fury's going to, I'd have told you all these different things.
Can't do it now.
And now, man, he put Fury down.
Tomorrow night.
PBD, we had Ngannou here, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
He came in with literally a broken leg.
That's after the injury, yeah.
Right, he had a broken leg. We interviewed him.
Yeah.
Sort of soft-spoken, mellow guy. You have no idea. This guy is a freaking beast. What was your biggest takeaway from that? Meaning, and I remember you asked him the contract. I don't know. You're going to stay in UFC. You're going to fight boxing. You've seen this evolution of Ngannou. What do you remember?
He wants to make money. You know, he wants to make money, and you know, what was the most money he said he made? $600,000, $500,000 or $600,000. He said specifically $600,000. I think he made $8 million with Fury. I don't know what the number is. If you pull it up, they said $8 million. But no, I don't know. Look, everybody gets into this game in a different reason. He came to America, I mean, you know, regular guy, around $10 million. He's trying to make money at this point. He chose to go this route. I mean, there's different ways of looking at it. If he would have stayed in UFC, would it have been bigger? Would he have other things going on with him? Did he want to be one of Dana's guys? I don't know. I don't know the details behind it, but I can tell you, watching the fight with Fury, I enjoyed it. And when we first started, I'm like, Fury's going to win this, no problem. And then I'm like, I don't, by the way, and you saw the guy on the, what's his name, Stepis? What's the other guy's name?
Stipe.
Yeah, he's on the side, and he's like, dude, you better win because we got to fight. I want to fight you, and I got to get my payday. I hope they don't call it on Ngannou. Oh, dang, you see, he was almost, did you see the face? He was relieved.
Hell yeah.
Like, dude. So I think there was a lot on the line. Teddy Atlas, if Teddy Atlas says he watched it 3 times, and, you know, Teddy, we've spoken before and we've had him on. If Teddy says he won after watching it 3 times, then he did. I gave Ngannou by like 51-49, but I'm not Teddy Atlas. I'm just a fan. So money's worth? Are you kidding me?
Of course.
Are you kidding me? So tomorrow's fight, March 8th. This is tomorrow night, by the way.
This one?
That's tomorrow night. Joshua's tomorrow night.
Yep.
So think about this weekend.
Oh, my God.
First, tomorrow morning, we had Chris Cuomo and Candace Owens on the podcast.
Yeah, that's going to be
okay.
sick.
Then you got tomorrow night the Joshua fight, Ngannou. Then you got Saturday the card with O'Malley. This is a very good weekend.
Chris and Candace at the same time?
Tomorrow morning.
Really? A
First
debate?
time
Tomorrow.
ever, yes.
Oh, I love it.
Are you going to be in town for that?
Yeah. Nah, I'll be listening to that for sure. I love that.
So, Cheal, O'Malley, Vera, Saturday. I mean, O'Malley was sitting here and he said, Vera's never been knocked down. He's never been knocked out. If you had to predict that fight, does it go the distance? Does somebody get knocked out? If you had to choose.
I'm quite confident that it gets finished.
Wow.
And then it's just a matter of who catches. So I'm leaning towards O'Malley, but I will share with you, I'm a little surprised that he's a favorite, considering they already fought in the kind of the run that Chito's on. I am predicting O'Malley, and I think he's going to finish him, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be back and forth, but these guys are just both so wild. Malley's a little longer. Malley does one of the best jobs of controlling range. Like, that's a term that gets thrown out in fighting all the time. He's got a reach advantage. He's got the range. Keep him at the end of the punches. Nobody knows how to do that. I mean, you got to go back to Tommy Hearns when you could find a guy. Tommy Hearns and John Jones are about the only 2 athletes with a reach advantage that knew how to use it. Sean O'Malley goes in that category, too. He can keep you at bay. And he's a striker. You got to get inside to wrestle him. He throws knees up the middle. I mean, he's a tough night out. So is Chito. Between the two, who's more likely to stab you in a parking lot is probably Chito. Like, there's some dudes that are bad at, I mean, they really are. I'm under threat right now of George Masvidal. I have an extra security guard with me because George has made this threat. And George followed through on a threat one time with Colby
Covington at the restaurant.
Poppy Steak in Miami in South Beach.
I was there last night. Is that where it was?
Yeah, exactly.
I went there. They put the caviar on the potato.
Yeah, of course.
I was there last night.
Shout out to David Einhorn.
Were you with
Dave
your
Grubman.
security guy last night?
Yes,
Okay, good for you.
They put an extra.
Good for you.
By the way,
that's where it goes down in South Beach.
I say that part way to brag to you guys. You know, I got 2 security roles. But the other side, isn't that ESPN's way of telling me they believe I'm going to lose to George?
That is
right? They
actually
thought I was going to beat him. I would have been out here on my own.
You know what? That's very annoying, frustrating. By the way, staying on that, you know, what's the story with? I want to try to find this video because remember when Tupac got into a fight right after the awards, and you know that video you can find on the MGM and we've all seen the fight. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the fight. What's the story with 6 guys try to fight you? You knocked them all out. But tell us that story.
Okay, well, so I have to tell you this. First off, they're all trying to come up on a Ferrari, so I still got that thing going on. But I'm kind of looking around and going, number one, nobody here's hurt, which I feel should be evidence that I didn't whip your ass. If I whipped your ass, somebody's got to have an ass whipped. And that did not happen. But secondly, there's 9 of you. I'm by myself. Like, we're all done here. I think
this is where? Where is this fight?
The Luxor in Las Vegas.
And how long
down
ago
by
is
the
this?
craps table.
How long?
3 years, maybe.
This is recent.
This is recent.
So
Vegas, I guess it's like 5 years in. You could deal with a court case for up to 5 years.
Holy shit! So you are you in the parking lot? Are you in the casino? Are you where is the fight at?
I am in the casino, and here's my problem, guys. Here's my problem. I thought they were together. I thought I was being jumped. It turns out they didn't know one another.
Get out of here.
And that was a big problem. But even for me, like, I think of myself as a reasonable guy.
Oh, God.
And when they inform me, hey, they're not together.
They're strangers.
And even inside, I go, oh.
What? You got to give us a little context.
Like,
here.
you hit a dealer.
You're at a craps table.
You hit a little Asian dealer.
That was the waitress, bro. Like,
and
what's the story? 9
I must
guys?
tell you, I must tell you, and I'm dancing a little bit just because this thing's going on.
Yeah.
But one of the problems was,
it's still going on.
yes,
Okay.
I had some
Then don't
folks that thought I was doing things like this. I was in the meeting, I was talking bad about them. I was like, whoa, hold on. I don't know your name, and I didn't even know you were there. Like, there was people all over. I've never spoke about you. They took that as condescending. What do you mean you didn't speak? No, I really didn't speak about it. I didn't know you were there. If I was to retell my story of that night, I would not have included you two. So I had gotten into a fight. So as soon as that fight, and it was bad. Things got out of hand, and it was bad, and we stopped because it was bad. They come. I just assume they're all together. I just assume there's a party going. Then more guys come. Then more guys comes. It's one of these situations. But the way the story came out is like, Gumby, Chaels, Bruce Lee, and 9 different people. It was a little bit exaggerated.
All right, Cheal, I have to ask you.
How did I do? Like, that was a performance. Did you guys buy that?
I love it.
Was that believable?
I wish I had the footage.
For 12 people not smart enough to get out of 12 people, was that a solid performance?
Those 25 guys never saw it coming.
Because I'll tell you
the 100
this.
guys that attacked you in Vegas, I feel bad for these 1,000
I'll tell you this. I'm rich. I've never stepped foot in the Luxor. I don't know where that came from. Somewhere in Vegas, they put that out. They literally put that in the paper. So I then ran with the story. I've never even been to the Luxor. I'm sitting in police custody. I'm handcuffed. And this guy comes out, and so I'm coming to. And I mean, it's like this is what I remember. I'm like coming to, and there's this police officer, bald guy, goatee. And I said, what happened? And my shirt's ripped off, and it's got blood all over my shirt. I said, what happened? And I said, is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? And he says, we don't know yet. And I said, what do you mean? Did anyone die? It was the first thing out of my mouth. And he goes, not yet, but... And he's like gathering his thoughts in hindsight. It was a complete lie. But he tells me this, and I believed it. Like that sickness I had in my stomach that possibly I had hurt somebody.
Cop is telling you this.
Yes.
The cop's a prankster.
Is telling me, and I'm handcuffed. I'm handcuffed to the chair. My shirt, it's bloody. I'm embarrassed. I'm a little bit confused. And he says, that there's one person there in the ICU, and he says, but what we don't know is that you did it. Did you see anybody that might have done this? And I said, no, I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything about it. Well, I don't remember anything about killing somebody because I didn't. So this guy's telling me this, and I'm believing it. This whole story is only about 3 seconds where I believe it, but I can still recreate this feeling in my stomach. Another dude walks out of the room and goes, hey, your boy just knocked out Jake Paul. And I said, what? And I'm handcuffed. He goes, your boy, Tyron Woodley, he just got knocked out by Jake Paul. I'm watching it in the office. And I look back at the other guy that told me this line. He goes, everybody's okay. You spilled the drink.
What a jerk.
Yep.
What a jerk.
And he came and uncuffed me, and I got up and left.
Were they was he a fan? Like, is he just messing with you? Or?
I don't know what happened
That
to
is
this
like
day. That was a terribly cruel thing to say.
Yeah.
But that adds to my defense. When the people, I've heard these people's fear. They think I've came and talked bad about it. I said, no, I haven't. I don't even know you. This guy told me you died, and I said that I don't remember that. But I don't remember that. And there's a sleep medication called Ambien. And they asked me, are you on anything? I've never tasted alcohol in my life. There's no Ambien test. Wow. Nobody would know. You know, there were breathalyzer for. I told the truth. I thought I would get credit for that. I thought I was being an honest guy. I said, well, you know, we were going to bed. I took an Ambien. They used it against me. Like I was drugged out of my mind. I said, no, Ambien's not part of my story. This is no part of my story. This is me telling the truth. I'm a truthful guy.
And by the way, Cheal, you're also.
Is this getting better? Or is this getting worse?
I love it.
Is this getting better?
Cheal,
this is very believable.
Cheal.
Aside from the Luxor, man, I'm not sitting down at the Luxor. Come on, I'd be in a
throwing craps.
You have a gift.
Thank you.
Please answer this as not humble as possible.
Okay.
You have a gift of gab. And we've interviewed guys with gifts of Andrew Tate, amazing speaker.
Yeah.
I mean, Vince Vaughn, actor. Like, you have a gift. You could have been a comedian, politician, anything with words. You got it going on, brother. Like some of the things you say, the Brazilian guys specifically, Wanderlei Silva, I mean, he never stood a chance. You're saying like, I don't know where this guy's doing an interview in a homeless mountain shelter somewhere right now. One time I saw the Nogueira brothers, they were out there petting a bus. One would feed him in a carrot. They didn't know it. They thought it was a horse. Wanderlei Silva, he's talking to a shoe out here. What's going on here? You know, I'm going to come up at your house. I'm going to put some night goggles on. I see you, Wanderlei Silva. You're in bed doing jujitsu with the Nogueira brothers out there. Okay, guy. You had Wanderlei Silva. I don't know. In Brazil, they don't know what a dentist is. They just wave a fishbone in someone's phone. Dude, I literally crack up listening to you. Okay,
those are good memories. I appreciate it.
Hilarious. I mean, LOL. What? Where does this all come from? Like a comedian. Like, what inspires all this? Do you are these guys your enemies? Do you train for this? Where does this all come? Specifically with the Brazilian guys.
In some degree, yes. Like I got labeled as this disrespectful guy that didn't belong in martial arts, and I'm already going to go. What do you even know about martial arts? What do you mean it's about respect? You don't know anything about martial arts other than what you saw in Hollywood. In Hollywood, when they made movies, they had guys bow to. You don't know anything about martial arts. Nobody does martial arts. Like this isn't a thing that's on TV prior to the UFC. This is a dirty, rotten cage fight between two guys that are basically naked, looking for the applause of a drunken audience and a paycheck. Like I remember when this whole thing was coming down and people were saying it was barbaric. And I was one of the people that Dana put out there on Fox News and things to speak about it. But I said, if this isn't barbaric, I don't know what is. This is two half-dressed men fist fighting with extremely limited rules for no reason. They have no point other than the applause of a drunken audience who they don't know. I think that's barbaric. And other people started coming on board, and other people coming on, and all of a sudden politicians started, and all of a sudden it loosened up, and we started getting free. I mean, I want credit for that. Nobody's ever given me credit for helping to legalize the sport. That was a big bad. That all goes to Dano and Lorenzo. But there was people that pitched. I personally sat in front of the governor when we got it signed into law in Oregon. I formed the political action committee. I lobbied the legislature. I ran for office to get the governor's attention and did. I mean, I just share for you that they said I was disrespectful, but I thought I was telling the truth. Everyone else is going to put a knife in your back when you turn around. I will tell you that when you turn around, I'm going to put a knife into your back. That's what we're here for. Yeah. We're not here to... We're picking fights. We're making fights. There's nothing we have to say sorry for. The number one rule, by the way, in fighting, I mean, this is written down. This is very tough language, is damage. The number one thing a judge... that's the government has to look for is you're going out there to damage one another. But you can't say something mean to him on Twitter. You know, you hurt a guy's feeling. You're disrespectful because you said a guy fed a bus a carrot. You know, you beat the hell out of 9 guys in the Luxor by a craps table, and then you claim that you thought like there's just things you say. You know, there's things that happen.
Cheal, is there a? And by the way, Cheal, I absolutely love it, and I agree with you 100%. Is there a limit to the shit talking?
Why would I be at the Luxor? Do you know when the Luxor was built?
Yeah, that the pyramid.
I got friends that own
picture of the Luxor, by the way.
I work for a guy that owns casinos. Why would I be at the Luxor?
Yeah. You'll be at the Wynn. You'll be at the Aria. You'll be at the Cosmo. You'll be at the MGM.
Right. Luxor was a thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
Luxor was a thing in the 90s.
You know, wait, what's his name?
MGM.
There's a comedian that says
no, that is the Luxor.
Luxor is like a knockoff MGM.
There's a comedian in
MGM doesn't look like that.
There's a comedian called Fraser Smith. He goes, Vegas just wants your money. He goes, even their hotels are built to keep you gambling. You can't even commit suicide slide. If you jump off that, you slide right back into the lobby and gamble. But so, Chael, my question to you is: so, is there like I get it? You have to talk shit. You got to sell tickets. You're good at what you do. Is there a limit? I remember Colby Covington, the last fight that he had, he went after the guy's father, and he said something about your dead dad, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a limit to the shit talking? Like, do you draw a line somewhere?
I think likely the answer to that is yes. I must tell you, I don't know where that limit is. I didn't live through Elvis. He actually passed away the year that I was born. But my mother used to tell me that parents wouldn't let their kids go see him, that he was so provocative. But she told me the only thing he did is every night he would shift his hips.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in a thrust or a sexual way. He would just shift his hips. But that had never been seen. It's like I was telling you, this guy named Keith Kaiser didn't want to license me because I was bad for kids. I never even had used profanity. I was just trying to sell some tickets and get a laugh. It was one of these things that you had to go through. So was Colby's line designed to hurt? Yes. And was it a mean line? Yes, it was. And Dana White came out subsequently and said after that press conference that sales went up 30%. Colby had a job to do, and he did his job. Now, the other side of it is he also has a job and a responsibility to show up tomorrow night at 7 o'clock and answer for it. And he did. Colby did everything he was supposed to do.
So, by the way, all these things we're talking about with fighting, the guys you fought, like if we were to talk about the guys you fight, okay, Machida, Fedor, Rampage, Quinton, you fought, that's Quinton Jackson, Silva, Ortiz, Evans, Jones, Silva, Bisping. Who haven't you fought? You fought all the guys at that time, right? Those are, by the way, a lot of these guys are top 20 guys. I mean, one of them is arguably some people put him as the greatest of all time, as him, Khabib, top 2, the name always comes up, him and John Jones. Who was the one you fought? Like a couple different things. One guy who was just super, like had the power you did not expect. Whose punch was it one where you got it like, oh, this is very different? What different things did you feel from these guys you fought?
Our sport lived through the testosterone era. They've now banned it. Now, testosterone is a fancy medical term for steroids, and I was the face of it. I was the first one to go to the doctor, get the exemption. I was allowed to use it through the commission. It was this whole thing. I show up to John Jones' fight. I got a higher juice concentrate than Tropicana. He locks up. He locks up with me, and he pushes me against that octagon like a Volvo versus a Mack truck. We're about 6 seconds into this, and I'm thinking, I got to get out. I mean, that's going through my mind, and he hasn't even hit me yet.
Like, get out of the cage,
I got to go home. We got to get to the back.
Listen, guys, I got to go.
Yeah.
You call him Uber?
And I got pride. I got pride like it, but I remember it crossed my mind. We locked, and he pushes me back, and he's got this move where he spins around, he'll elbow you right in the mouth, and I barely got out of the way of the elbow, but John Jones, he was everywhere. This guy was so long. I mean, he was just absolutely everywhere. He really is a talented guy. The only fight I ever enjoyed, and I couldn't tell you why, but was Fedor. And that was just...
you enjoyed the fight?
And it's the only fight I've ever enjoyed where I've actually, I like the training, I like the social, I like being with guys like you and talk about it. The actual fight, no one likes. You're a sociopath if you say you do.
Right.
But
is this the Fedor fight?
Yes, but he is such an icon. I mean, he is the Mike Tyson of our sport.
Rob,
he is
you can pause that.
The Michael Jordan of our sport.
Fedor.
And yes, I'm 185 pounds. This is at heavyweight. It was one of these things where I had several things that I wanted to prove in this sport, but one of them is that you fight anybody. You're either a bully if you pick fights, or you're a legit tough guy, but it's got to be anybody. If you only take on guys you think you can beat, it was like this code. There was like this code of honor that I had. My father passed away before my career really started, but he would have believed in that. So it was, whatever. But this was my thing. And my point, I really didn't have much of a chance at heavyweight. Like, I remember when he came through the cage looking at him, and he was a great, but Rampage Jackson, like in my mind at least, had to turn sideways to get through the cage. I remember looking, oh, God, this is a big guy.
A big dude.
I was in a tournament, though. It was a heavyweight tournament. Yeah, the weight was 265. Like, when I had my best days, my big paydays, it was at 185 pounds. The Michael Bispings or the Anderson Silvas. This was up at heavyweight. But it was to prove a point. And the point was, I'll fight anybody. Speaking of fight anybody, I almost had to fight Anderson Silva in a parking garage in Dallas. Do you want to hear that story?
Of course.
I told that story. So, Francis and who did I say? Did I say Anderson Silva?
Yeah. Anderson Silva.
I'm going to say Francis and Ngannou.
Oh shit! That's a big difference, bro.
Yes.
This is different.
There's only two guys
That's a big difference.
that don't like me. Well, apparently George Masvidal. I guess I got to throw three in there. I only have heat with two guys, John Jones and Francis Ngannou. But I got to tell you, I've never met Francis. It's just when I'm critiquing him and Francis is ended up in heat with Dana, and I'm Dana's guy, right? He's got a contract dispute. So I'm out there and I'm doing my thing saying he's the heavyweight champion. He's come and defend our belt. He's got no chance with Fury. That's really not that mean of things to say. But apparently Francis has never been spoke to like that. He's furious. So we go to Dallas, and I take my son with me. My son and I's first fight, but no mom. We flew out there to get our first father-son trip. He's 7 years old. And we watched Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, and it was awesome. And Nate took care of us. He brought us to the back. He gave my son some special gloves, and he puts us in the front row. I don't know if you guys remember as kids, like watching a Chuck Norris movie or something, or a Steven Seagal, but when you and your buddies are walking to the car afterwards, you're like jumping in the air and throwing kicks at each other, and you're like, it's one of these things. So the fight gets over, we go to the parking garage, and there's no one there. It's just me and Francis. And I know he doesn't like me. He's told me before, but he told me very calmly. And he told me on a commercial break before we went to interview him. And he said, I don't lie. I hear the things that you say. And this mountain of a man. Like, I think of myself, you're showing me fighting Fedor. This is a mountain of a man. So at any rate, we're in the parking garage after the fight, and my son is wearing these gloves that Nate gave him, and he's doing his shadow boxing, but he's about 10 feet away. My son's relevant. Store that away. Francis, me, he turns around and he lets loose on me. And I can't fully remember what he was saying, but it's loud and he's angry, and it's to the point that security over our shoulders has to get involved. But they don't come over. They just yell, you two, keep it verbal. And the guy says it like 2 or 3 times. Well, I can't take my eyes off him now.
Keep it verbal.
Yeah,
You're going to
listen.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So my father had a rule. It was a little different than other people's. A lot of people said, hey, you can defend yourself, but let him throw the first punch. My father told me as soon as they're within arm's reach, the fight has started. They have thrown the punch if they're within arm's reach. If they come and you know that it's on. I'm within arm's reach. I can't move. Now, I also can't put my hands up because that's provocative. I'm not sure what he wants to do. And this is going through my head. When I was a little kid, I believe around the 6th grade, Mike Tyson got called out in a bar fight in Brooklyn, and he went outside and he punched the guy one time. Mike Tyson shattered the guy's face, and that is how the news reported. I don't frankly know what that means. The news said Mike Tyson hits him one time and shatters the guy's face. So when I'm face-to-face with Francis, it's all I can think about is, okay, you're bigger than Mike and you have the same belt that he does. If you hit me like Mike did that guy, how bad is a shattered face? Like, this is going through my head. I got these glasses. These are new glasses. I want to take my glasses off because I'm worried something's going to go on my, like, it's this whole thing that's going through my head. I'm thinking, man, you back down from John Jones and I fought. Like, I got a way to go in this. This is going to be an uphill battle, but I'm thinking this. But in fairness, I don't want this to happen. And I say I can't take my eye off him, and I hear security, I'm looking at him, and I say, Francis. And I said, not in front of my son. And Francis looks over, and he sees this little kid shadow boxing. He didn't know it was my son. He looked over, he saw my son. He stopped.
No shit.
Respect.
Full respect.
Big time.
He looked over, and he looked right, and he did not say a word, and he wanted to. And silence. And he even took a step back and we won our
It would
Good for him,
have been
by
a
the
different story if you looked at your son and your son went, let's get him back. Dad, I got your back.
You think Francis genuinely in that parking lot wanted to knock you out?
Oh, he definitely did. He was showing restraint, but he definitely did. He's had that moment with me a few times. And frankly, I don't really know where it comes from fully. Like, he's got a job to do, but I do too, which is to talk about his opponents. And if I don't think he's going to win, I don't think that's a bad thing to say. I'm not sure he's going to beat Joshua, but I'm here talking and trying to help promote it. I mean, in all fairness, he could pat me on the back.
But that's the problem of literal people.
Yeah.
And Francis is literal because I remember in the interview, I'm talking to Francis, and you're asking a question that there's a little bit of humor behind it. He's like, "What do you mean?" And it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it was like, it's not, you understand, it's like street, it's, chop, we're just kind of a, no, he's very much like this Fedor. When you fought Fedor, by the way, do you know what's the most pay-per-view Fedor ever sold?
No.
100,000.
Really?
Never more than 100,000.
Oh, that surprises me.
Yeah, never more than 100,000. If you can Google this is what I...
and he only fought on pay-per-view when he was in Pride. When he came to Strikeforce, they didn't do... well, he did do one pay-per-view for him.
And Fedor was just different to what he would... And the reason why I say this is, if Fedor had the ability to speak and sell...
Forget it.
Because he would come to the, Kevin, was it Randleman? The fight, you're just kind of looking at him and just looking at him like this.
He's like an ambient.
And by the way, even the fight with you, he hit you 3 times and you felt it, right? You dropped. And you're waiting for him to come to you, never came to you. Why did he not come to you?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean? He never came to you.
I went down 5 seconds into that fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit me with a missile. Oh, my God, he hit me so hard. And I remember falling to the ground and thinking, if I stay down, this will be the fastest knockout in history. And I just start, like, kicking my legs at him and just trying to buy some time. For some reason, he stepped back and let me up. And I remember getting up, and now we're only like 10 or 15 seconds, but I'm thinking, okay, not the fastest in history. And then, we go back to fighting. But, yeah, the things that go through your mind really are interesting at those times. You learn a lot about yourself.
You ever interviewed him? Have you ever had an interview with him? And
I didn't interview him like this, but yes, I spoke to him privately. Quite a sense of humor.
And what is your feel on him?
Very nice guy. Quite a sense of humor. He married the same woman twice. He's been married twice, but it was to the same one. And I love that story.
Parents.
And he even asked me one time to not tell that. I said, but Fedor, that's in America. That's actually a beautiful story. He was a religious guy. He didn't believe in divorce. They got back to it's like, Fedor, that's a good story here, but
you know when I say like interview him, I mean like interview, like to get in his head and kind of ask. I don't know if there's ever been a good interview. Maybe there is, and I haven't seen it, but I'd love to see somebody like you in this space interview him. Let me transition to the next story with a few minutes we have left. So a couple names I want to ask you about.
All right. And I got to ask you something. Leave me at least 1 minute because I got a question for you. But
no problem. So let's go through a couple of these other. Ryan Garcia. Are you following what's going on with Ryan Garcia?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So first, we had him on 2 weeks ago. Had a good conversation with him. Wondering where he's at. The next day, they announced the fight. Devin Haney, 420, all that stuff that's taking place. Devin is 31-0. He's got the one loss to Tank. And they've fought each other 3-3. They've had 6 fights, but obviously it's a different story fighting today than before. What do you think is causing what he's going through the last week, 2 weeks? Some are saying he's promoting the fight. Some are saying this is his way of getting eyeballs. But from your guy that's been in this game for a long time, what do you think is going on with Ryan?
I will tell you what's not. He is definitely not performing. He is not an actor, and he is not trying to get eyeballs by looking crazy. There was something going on there. People have speculated to drug use. I'm not going off of that, but this is not an act, and I don't know what it is. And, to my point of the government before, I mean, there's tests, there's neurological exams. There is something happening there that's at least concerning to a degree. Now, there's also good news with Garcia, which is he travels almost everywhere with his dad. His old man is with him, and he shows up to press conferences. So I know that he's being watched, and I know some people that go to his church in Texas, and I know that he does have a support system, but I think it's a little concerning. Whatever is going on, I hope somebody's watching him, and there could be a simple answer, man. Maybe he needed sleep. He actually blamed it on caffeine, said he had too much coffee. I know we're not going to buy that story, but it could be something simple like that. I'm hoping it is. I don't really know.
Yeah.
He's a handsome young man, and he's very quick, and he's very talented. He's not quite as good as he says he is, but he could be in a couple years.
Do you want to show that video that he
Which one are you talking
The
about?
one that he did yesterday after...
Oh, the one you sent?
Oh,
the
Bohemian. No,
is...
this one where he mentioned...
Oh, this is the one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it, yeah. This is...
Instagram. Now, over these past couple of days, you guys have seen some pretty intense things. I understand what they are, and I understand what they look like. But I'm coming back to announce I'm not going to speak on any other topic other than boxing, sports, and my fight. That's the only thing I'm going to be talking about. And I'm training for this fight. I want everybody to know this fight's still on. 420, 5 weeks of super focus. I have PBD helping me in this camp and many other warriors. So I thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you guys on 420.
Sometimes we forget what it is to be 25 years old, right? I mean, I'm 45. I don't know how.
46.
46. So we're the same age. Everybody at this table is 1 year apart, 2 years apart. He likes to think it's 4 years apart, but it's really we're 2 years apart.
Adam keeps losing a year every year.
Still 40.
But when you're 25, you don't know what you're going through. So give a 25-year-old $40 million with 11 million followers, with a lot of looks, with a skill set that millions of people like to watch and enjoy, and go. Try to manage all of that that quickly, right? So, but I had a conversation with him yesterday, just kind of see where he's at, and we had a 15-minute convo. I said, look, Mike, I have one suggestion for you. He says, but Pat, you don't know what I'm seeing, and I said, I totally get it. I said, then why don't you not fight? Then don't go fight. I want you to stay focused with this. He says, no, I want to fight. I said, then here's what my challenge to you is: nothing about anything else of boxing until 420. Let's stay focused, okay? Let's stay on this topic here. Let's stay focused. And then afterwards, if you want to talk about some of the stuff you want to talk about, but you got a job to do right now, go do your fight. Hopefully he does it. And, I'm excited to see what that takes place, because his best fight, like if he actually prepares and he's ready for it, and Devin is gonna be prepared. If those two are prepared, it's a good fight, and it's good for boxing. You know, and in that weight class, it's fast, it's quick, there's so many. You know, I thought the Davis fight was actually a cool fight. I enjoyed watching that fight. So I'm excited, and I'm proud of him for actually committing to wanting to do that, and we'll see how he's going to handle it.
What are the chances you think this fight actually happens on 420 if he gets his mind right?
If he doesn't post about anything else and stays focused, it does. If he acts the way that he does, and I'm on the other side, I would be asking to see what, and I keep him on, everything is contract this way, because the other guy's like, I'm going to get my money no matter what. You don't want to show up? Promoter's got to pay me, and promoters are going to be like, we're not going to stop the fight. You have to show up, or else you're going to pay. So if there's no fight, that's a payday that Ryan could get sued for. This is legal stuff. You are not going to screw around with promoters' money at all. It's a very nasty thing if you go there with lawyers. So,
well, we're rooting for the guy.
For 100%, 100% want to see this thing. Okay, let me go to another one. Ariel Helwani.
Yes.
Okay, you and him have a very interesting relationship together. I see him everywhere. The other day, do you have the Ariel and Sean Strickland back and forth? Do you have that one, Rob? I don't know if you do or not. Go ahead and play this. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
That could get wild.
Yeah, go ahead and play this here. Rob, we can't hear anything.
Talking exclusively about MMA.
Go back a little bit. Go back a little bit. Yeah. Go ahead, buddy.
I don't think you're a big MMA.
I put out 14 hours of content this week in the last 13 days talking exclusively about MMA.
No, I'm not
about MMA.
I'm not saying
you think I fake that?
I'm not saying but I'm saying if this wasn't your job, bro, I don't think you'd be at the bar with the boys watching get knocked out.
Bro, I was at the bar watching MMA when you were in your father's nutsack. When you didn't even know what the MMA was, dude. I was talking about MMA. I was doing a radio show at Syracuse University in 2001. How old are you?
I'm 31.
31. How old were you in 2001? You were in fucking 4th grade when I was talking about MMA, when I was hosting an MMA show, when it wasn't even cool, when you were probably going out there, taking 2 bottles of fucking Modelo's and smashing them together, causing trouble. I was campaigning and fighting for this sport to be covered by people when you didn't even fucking know what MMA stood for. So do your research.
Good job, fucking beta male. I like that.
Guy. Do your fucking research, man. I was on the front fucking lines of this sport, creating jobs and interviewing fighters, going to bullshit events when you were fucking out in the parking lot doing wheelies and donuts. All right.
By the way, you really feel the bitterness in air. Is it? Does Ariel feel like he's not? Yeah,
he was getting worked up, legit.
Do you think he feels like he's not appreciated for his contribution to the sport? Like, what do you think it is with the way he's approaching this?
I always thought Ariel was a dweeb. He was just this dorky guy that does interviews, and he'd be hanging out in hotel lobbies and asking you for stuff. And I was working with him. It was the first time that ESPN ever aired a UFC. We were in New York, and it was January 18th. Cejudo versus Dillashaw in the main event. All right, so we're sitting there at the desk, and it's the first time I've ever worked with him. And I've been with him all week. We've been in the car, and we're riding over together, and we're at the hotel, and we're having dinner. He won't get off his phone. He's just on his phone nonstop. He will not get off the phone. And I finally say to him at the desk, and we're sitting there. We're not live or anything, but I said, do you not feel a little bit guilty? You don't feel any obligation to keep me company? You just sit over there on your phone this entire time. This is like the 4th time I brought up this phone to him. And he looks at me and says, let me tell you something. You say anything else to me about this phone, I'm going to shove it up your ass. Do you understand that? And I was like, oh, you're not the dweeb I thought you were. Like, it was so funny. It changed our whole relationship. And he had the straightest face.
How big is he?
I believed him as much as I believe Francis. Where I said, hey, man, my son's right over here.
Helwani, Ngannou, it's the same
later.
thing. How big of a guy is he, by the way?
Oh, gosh. I would say probably 180. He's about 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know his brother.
He's
but
pretty
he's the Stephen A. Smith of UFC. You got to give him credit for that.
100%.
I've seen Dana White rip on me, a fucking loser, wussies, called him a weak bag of bones. But, dude, for a guy like that, who's not a badass dude, to get up there and talk some smack, you got to give him a little bit of credit, no?
Oh, for sure I do. Yeah, and I mean, he found a way. Like, when people weren't handing him a paycheck, he found a way. He brought his own cameras, found his own sponsors, loaded his own stuff. Yeah, and then he made it. Next thing you know, he's calling fights, and he did make a mistake with Dana. Brock Lesnar was coming back, and they had a package, and they were going to drop it during a pay-per-view. This was going to be the announcement, and Brock pops on the screens for the live, and Ariel found out about it. So Dana finds out that Ariel finds out and just calls him and says, hey, man, please don't. I got a show coming up in 2 hours. I put a lot of money into this. Let me do it my way. And Ariel tweeted it out. And that was it. And I think he regrets that. He's never said he regrets, but I think he does. And, Dana has the right to be upset.
That you can't do that.
You can't do
horrible.
That.
By the way, it's game over after that. You can never be trusted.
Didn't he say
can't
it to you?
do that. You can't.
Didn't
do
he say,
something like that.
you know, say it to have some balls, say it to my face?
Yeah.
He's called you out, and you walked off. What was that exchange?
Yes. Well, he's done that. I mean, you know, he got upset. Well, that's where I could tell he was actually kind of getting into that with Strickland. He was starting to get more and more worked up, which actually made for good theater.
Is this it, Rob?
did,
Go ahead and
but
play this.
You came here to tell a message to Dana White, which missed, like it always. I gotta go. I hate hanging up. That's what punks do. But I gotta go, man.
That's
You're
a weasel
disgusting.
move. That's
You're
a weasel
disgusting,
move.
and you're weak, Ariel. You're disgusting
That's a weasel
and weak.
move. That's
You're
I'll
weak.
stand here. You're trying to leave. You're trying to leave, and you keep insulting me. You keep
I got
insulting.
nowhere to go
Bring
with
on
you.
the insults. Bring on the
lying, and then you called me the liar.
Some friend, you did lie.
You opened this by saying that it did 10 to 20 million, as reported. You could have said, I'm guessing, I think, but you didn't. You lied. This is your opening line. I'm not going back, Ariel, like you tried to do with things out of a different place that nobody here as your audience, our jury can see. I went back to your first line. Your opening line to me, you lied.
Oh,
I called you out. You got caught lying. You said it did 10 to 20, and you said it was reported.
Yes, by me.
Leaving.
By
I'm
me.
leaving. I know
By
that's a
me.
punk move.
By
You're a punk
me.
and you're a little
By
weasel.
me.
Goodbye, Ariel.
Keep.
I got to tell you, that was 45 minutes in. I was scheduled for a 5-minute piece, and we broke bad there. Nobody wants to get up and hang up. But I told Ariel, I have nowhere to go, and I'm losing my voice here. Like, you owe me an apology. You said something that wasn't true.
If you're the reporter and all of a sudden you're the storyline, only a few people have ever. Stephen A. Smith. Who else even comes to mind that the story writer?
What was that one guy's name?
Line.
Call me Chris Chandler one more time. What was it? Rome?
Chris Everett.
Chris Everett.
Jim Rome. Yeah, Chris.
He used to be the guy. Like he used to be the guy 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
And I've seen you on Jim Rome, and you're like, LeBron, he's a bitch.
Yes.
LeBron's a dork. You call okay?
Yes.
What's your beef with LeBron?
There was a guy that turned out to be a very nice guy, but he was like getting this credit for being a badass. Ray Lewis.
Yeah,
that's
Ray Lewis.
who it was.
Well, Ravens. He's a Hall of Fame linebacker.
Well, and then I ended up meeting him. He was a very nice guy.
Yeah.
But yes, at the time I was building some fight, and I called him.
Why did you call LeBron a dork, though?
Well, what did LeBron do? LeBron had done something to me, and he was coming to UFC fights, and he wasn't doing autographs, and it was just one of these things that rubbed me the wrong way. And he and I have one thing in common: we use the same drug dealer to buy our EPO, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, there's performance-enhancing drugs, and they'll come out and try to tell you those are bad things. Performance and enhancing are good terms. You can pin that on me all you want. If there's something out there that can make you better, I'm not going to lie about it like a lot of other people are. And it was a big deal. It's like LeBron. To explain where you got to understand, I grew up through the Hulk Hogan era. Like, I mean, I'm taking my vitamins and I'm doing my push-ups every night and I'm flexing in the mirror for 10 years and I can't put on any muscle. It's like, Hulk, why didn't you say you were taking anabolic steroids? Like, I did the prayers, I did the I would have done the steroids. Yeah. Why didn't you include that?
Well, because he would give speeches like,
10 years.
You guys take your vitamins, kids. Yeah. So is there validity to your story with the same drug dealer? Is that actually accurate? Straight up.
Specific, but it's a wonderful drug. See, this is what, but
guys, it's good.
It's a legal medicine.
There's your boy.
That's one of the things. It's a legal Now, you can ban it in sports and there's different rules, but I'm sharing with you, like, this is what Lance Armstrong did. When he finally came clean, it was something called EPO. And in the world of performance-enhancing drugs, in my experience, EPO is king, and it is king by 8. I would pass up 5 other stuff just to have that, but it's very, very difficult to get. It's very expensive. We happen to have the same guy. I didn't say that to out him and or embarrass him. This wasn't like a dry snitch. I'm sharing that if you want to get a basketball and you want to make it to 38, you want to be the MVP of the league, you can't just go do certain things. There's a little bit more to it. Let me share with you what that is. I mean, I have the same problem with The Rock. Every time I'm around The Rock, he's a very nice guy to me, but I don't know why he denies steroids. He denies them, and John Cena denies them. It's like, guys, they're legal. Testosterone is legal. Steroids got a bad rap and this dirty rap, and it brings in connotations that you're in like a back alley of a Gold's Gym and you're buying something out of a brown paper bag. There's also legal medicines, which is what you guys do. I believe The Rock takes his legally. Why wouldn't you just come out and tell people that? It's a great. Stallone did. Schwarzenegger finally did. Suzanne Summers did and wrote a book on it. But that's a very honorable thing. If this is what you're truly doing, I feel
you're saying that's not all natural, Cheal.
And you can say nothing. Like, you can just post those pictures and say nothing. But if he chooses to come out and say, here's my diet, and here's my cheat meals, and here's specifically what I do, but you leave out the anabolics, which you know is what's actually creating that, not the pancakes in the morning and the 4 a.m. wake up. I think that you need to say it. I do. Or you can just stay away from it. So I helped LeBron. He didn't have the courage to say it, so I said it for him.
Wow. So you should thank you.
What's the big deal? It's a legal medication.
Does he still come to UFC fights or no? LeBron?
No, he stopped as soon as I threatened him in the public. If he comes to another fight or something.
You did say that.
I said that he maybe commented on my wife's breasts one time, which he was staring at. I don't know that he said it. I added that part to it.
Maybe he just has good taste.
Ass if I see him again. Yeah. I said there was a kid in a wheelchair and he pushed him out of the way to get to this. You know, come on, I'm performing. He didn't push some kid out. I'm performing, right? But I did follow that up with it. If I see him again, I'm going to whip his ass. I got to ask you a question, by the way.
Go for it.
Anthony Weiner, my single favorite that you have ever done. And you started to turn on him, and you referenced something that had happened prior to the cameras going, which is something along the lines, in my mind, that he walked in and then was, hey, excuse me, what's your name? Like he didn't know, or something like this. Yeah. And you called it up, but you kind of started us on second base. What happened there?
So we had a podcast prep at the other building that we bought. We turned into a comedy club and a cigar lounge. So.
Yeah, I thought your seats were all straight. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So like tomorrow, Chris Como, Candace Owens will be at the other club because we'll have a couple hundred people in attendance and we'll do it there. But right before the podcast, I said, this is going to be a very easy interview if he's respectful. If he's disrespectful, then great. I think I told the three of you
Tom
guys, right?
I believe
it was. Vinny,
I was there. He didn't want me to
you were in the room.
punch him in his face.
I said if he goes and plays games, then it's open game. Like we had Jeffrey Toobin here. Okay, you remember Jeffrey Toobin, famous for helping the Zoom stock go up. He was a legendary guy. Guess what? He was a ton of fun. Yep. Didn't play the asshole role. He actually played along for 30 minutes with what happened to him. This guy walks in and he says, what kind of a freaking building is this with a puddle back here and all this shit? And by the way, what's your name? And he starts doing this.
He literally said that. What is your name?
And attempting to be funny by any chance?
No.
0%.
So the more I said, what's wrong with the bill? I said, you know what? I can't stand a freaking landlord, to be honest with you. He's an asshole. Yeah. And he says, really? I said, yeah, he's a total asshole. He's so hard to do. Now, I own the building. Sure. This is like, he doesn't. He's like, really? I said, yeah, who the hell would have a water puddle outside with rain and all this bullshit? I can't stand working with the guy, but we're figuring it out. And he says, oh, hey, buddy. Hey, pal. Was the word. Hey, pal, what's your name? And then from there, hey, you're not going to fly from New York to another place and pull off the oldest trick with a girl. Hey, Mary, her name is Ginger, or, how you doing, Mary? You doing that? No problem. Open game. I love it. Let's go see how this thing turns out. And obviously it became one of my favorite podcasts of all time. We had a wonderful time together.
Yeah, and you're coming here. You're the guy that's trying to have sex with 15-year-olds. Yeah. You can't come in here with an attitude like you only. He's like, if I was the mayor, I do this and I do this. And bro, mind you, Cheal, I'm in the there's not an audience. I'm just sitting there like, no wonder why Pat didn't want to have me on this podcast. I would have punched him in his face.
Yeah, and he tried to backpedal, be like, no, I didn't know if you wanted to be called Pat or Patrick.
No,
he
knew what he was doing.
What's your name?
He knew what he was doing. He's a demon.
I called him a douchebag to his face. Look, we've done, what number are we on podcast episode is this? 377.
Okay.
Nobody has ever walked in a room and just disrespected PBD or any of us prior to the podcast. You saw you walked in, hey, what's up, bro? Just be nice.
It's not, I don't like, for example, Antonio Brown was disrespectful, okay? And when we went through it with him, it was a complete different thing where I'm sitting there saying, dude, I really think you have CTE and I'm worried about you, right? Like I was sincerely concerned about this guy because the way he was acting, I'm like, you were not like this pre the hit with Cincinnati Bengals. What was the guy's name?
Perfect.
Not Perfect. No, it's Brazil. Is that what the guy's name? Okay.
Yeah, the guy from Bengals.
So when he got hit, I'm like, something's changed.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find out what this guy's. And by the way, recently Antonio Brown's come out and said, I do have CTE.
Straight up, he said that?
Yeah, go pull up. And Antonio says, blame CTE on former teammate. This is a year ago. He finally, after the podcast came out and says, I have CTE.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
man.
So he finally came out and said it. This is one of the reasons Dylan is concerned about playing football after watching the interview with Antonio Brown. So that is different. I understand. You're going through stuff. Totally get it. But Weiner is very, very smart. I don't know if you've ever sized this guy up. By the way, smart, shrewd, great debater. He had the legs to go up. He was a performer. He could have one day be a president. He would have been the mayor of New York, but he had what it took to run to be a president until, he ended up doing what he's doing. And by the way, do you know who twice? And do you know who his ex-wife is dating right now?
No, who?
Alex Soros.
Really?
Yeah. Soros' son.
Uma Abedin is with Dr. Evil's son.
Yeah. So what was your thoughts on the interview with Weiner?
here's what I gathered. So you're telling me if the girl's name is Ginger, you walk up and say, "Hi, Jill."
Yeah.
Like you to disarm her.
It's
like,
called negging.
I don't even
It's
remember.
called negging.
Now I've done that to the point, like the ex-boyfriend, right? His name's Jack, and you go, "Hey, how's John doing?" Like to act like you don't care, but you're saying you do it to the actual girl. That is fascinating.
Well,
can I tell you my move?
Yeah.
I did that. If you hear
I'm
somebody,
so
else told
curious.
this,
Go for it.
If you hear somebody
For a
else did
happily
this, they
married
stole
guy,
from
I want to
me.
hear it.
Yes.
I'm taking notes,
To
Joe.
my hot ass wife, Brittany. I had said hello to her, and she disappeared. She was not interested. The Cheal charm was not working. And we were in a 3-story building. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not good at the walk up. I'm better when they walk up to me. And I remember thinking to myself, what if that's the girl I'm supposed to marry? Which is a very weird thought. But I did have that. And I went through this whole building and I found her. I said, excuse me. And I said, I've got to make a phone call. Do you have a phone I can borrow? And just as a nice person, she gave me her phone. Well, my phone was in my back pocket, called myself. So when it vibrates, then I know I've got her number. Now this dude walks up who I haven't seen in 9 years, and he's my friend and my former teammate at Team Quest, Ryan. And Ryan puts his arm around her, and I said, Ryan, let me introduce you. Ryan, nice to see you again after 10 years. Let me introduce you to my new friend, Brittany. And he turns her around and looks over his shoulder at me and says, quit talking to my sister.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
But my intentions are good. Look at that.
So
girl.
now
Is that
Ryan's-
a fine woman?
now
Be
Ryan's
honest, that woman is fire right
Jeez.
there. That is straight fire,
Yeah.
this girl.
Well, now I understand why LeBron was looking at her chest.
That's America right
We can't
there.
blame LeBron.
And now Ryan is your brother-in-law.
Yes, right.
That's amazing.
We're not
Wait
disparaging
a minute. You've
LeBron.
known Ryan for 10 years. You did not know this was his sister?
Didn't even know she existed. He never brought her around.
Well, that's what
look at
brothers
her,
do.
bro.
They,
That's
they
what-
keep,
Yeah.
her,
Gorgeous.
keep her hidden.
The last thing he's going to do is Chael. This is my sister. Why don't you? Yeah.
Good. So by the way,
Sick
so,
move with
so
the
then
phone,
you're
though, by
not
the
just
way.
good in fighting and selling fights. You're also good at selling.
Stud.
Yeah,
I like looking at
respect.
her. I like that photo. Thank you for bringing it up.
just
Now,
leave that
woman
there?
is fine. I am not tired of her.
Now you
got to
get her-
I'm not tired of this girl yet.
You got to get her a carry
been
for
12
every
years.
decade.
Rob, you want to? Is there a clip you want to play? There's something you want to play here. Go ahead, Rob.
Favorite breakfast? I would get a chicken fried steak with eggs. It's very rare that you could find brown gravy. It's generally a white country gravy, which I'm just fine with. Big hash browns. I don't want the chopped potatoes like some people are trying to get away with. Shredded hash browns. 3 eggs over easy because I want the yolk. When I get it, I'm going to cut the steak up and then mash the eggs and the potato and everything together. Then I'm going to get English muffin on the side. I'm going to use my English muffin like my friend
Very
Izzy would
detailed.
for a tortilla.
I love that. I'm
Everything goes
starving
on the
now.
English muffin. That's how it then gets into my mouth.
And guess what? Our chef Alper prepared that exact meal for you right now.
No way.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
got
get out.
There we go, baby.
Albert's in the house.
That's really thoughtful, by the way.
Look at that.
What do I do?
Oh,
Do I-
my
Come on.
God.
Come on.
You asked for it.
Come on.
That is freaking amazing.
I am actually blown away right now.
Steak, but I couldn't make it like in brown, but like no.
Look at how
You
golden
okay with
brown
that?
you got this. And you got the yolk. You heard what I said.
You got to.
Come on,
We got
man.
to. You got to try it. The proof is in the pudding, or it's in the gravy.
That is so nice of you, by the way.
Alper, I
Thank
love
you.
you, brother. I'm gonna see
What a
Chael.
kind gift. I gotta put mine.
We gotta get.
God, look at this, yo. I'm gonna do this just right too. Wow.
Look at
English
I
muffin.
love that he's not even playing games.
By the way, that outfit that I was wearing when you just saw that, I don't know if you happen to remember, but it had a hood and pockets in the front. That's what I wore to Poppy's last night. They stopped me at the door and wouldn't let me in. They said I was
Poppy's
against
steak?
the dress code because it's got a.
You
a
need me
hood
to
on
make a
it.
call for
I
you
just
to the
made
Crude
this thing
Hospitality. I mean, come
yesterday.
on,
You
next
guys
time.
just got
Did they
this.
honestly have you change?
No, they told me to go to a CVS up the road, and they said you
No.
can get a T-shirt. And Leah, my manager, was there. And she said, well, hey, can we have a second opinion? And we got another opinion, and they said, well, we'll make an exception
Come
for
on,
you.
David Einhorn, grow up man, coming. Chael Sonnen's coming to eat Poppy Stick. Let's let this
Chael,
guy in.
It was
good though,
man.
right?
God,
Chael's
I
about
can't
to
believe you made. I really can't believe you did this for me.
Let's see if Chael's it.
Oh, first off, the gravy's incredible. Wow.
Alper.
You could dip car parts in that gravy. Yeah, that's amazing. This is so tough. I feel like I can't just eat this while you guys have nothing. But I'm just
No, it's all good.
but
Chael, I
just
got
another
selfishly,
bite.
I want to ask
Thank
you a question on PBD's behalf,
Okay.
real quick.
Okay.
That fight you almost got in with Ngannou. Your 7-year-old son's there, right? PBD's got 2 sons, 2 daughters. One of his sons, Dilly Boy, absolute stud of a kid. Tico's going to be some sort of scientist or movie director, but Dylan's, in Choose Your Enemies Wisely, there's a story where he says, I will going to be the best fighter in the world. Yep. And then the next day he said, no, I want to be the best. And you held him accountable. It was a very impactful part of the book. You know, sons out there. You have a 7-year-old son. Do you want your son to get into fighting, professional sports? You know, PBD's son, maybe he's going to be a soccer player. You don't know. What would you advise for your son, PBD's son?
I will just be his chauffeur. Like, if that's what he wants to, I'll get him to practice. But no, I have like a regret. I wish I knew how to play golf or tennis or something like that. And people told me later in life, but hey, think about golf. You could play it forever. I say, oh my God, that makes a lot of sense. But nobody told me that when I was young. So I don't know what he'll choose. He really enjoyed the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago, like I think all kids did. By the way, I told you I've never told that Francis story before.
Right.
So I told it one time, and it was to his mom. And I didn't even talk to him about it. I figured that he
was a hot wife.
My hot ass wife.
Yeah.
I figured that my son was a little freaked out. This would be my way of just discussing it. And your dad tried to stand his ground. Dad had pride. So I tell it, and my wife turns to him and says, "Son, what did you think?" And he goes, "All right, Mom, I was standing right there. That never happened." He said, "Francis never said a single word to Dad." I don't even know if Francis was there. He said I made the whole thing up.
What? So he's
I look like a
gifted.
fool.
He's gifted. He's got it.
He pulled the Luxor trick on you,
That's
dude.
good.
Yeah.
Pulled the Luxor. Why would I be at the Luxor? They put this in the paper, by the way.
I can't
The
believe
Luxor.
that.
By the way, as soon as the food came in, Chael has officially checked out. He's doing. He's doing his,
Okay,
That's
here's,
awesome.
but I will tell you this on the Weiner interview because it's the first time I've seen you come after somebody, and I knew that you were willing to get more angry, but I also knew that you were willing to put your sword down. It was a very interesting job by you. He stood his ground. He had some kind of answer for you, and he said, "Yeah, I was wrong to do that. I was wrong." And I think he made an excuse or a lie, but he kept going, man. He didn't. I mean, to your point, he was very.
No, he
electable.
has it.
Yeah.
No. He is.
Him and Newsom.
I'm telling you, if that incident, if that habit doesn't happen, this guy is an FYI. I put him ahead of Newsom.
As a snake, politician?
I put him as the ability to debate, to communicate, to challenge,
100%.
to rally, to get under your skin, to do all of that stuff.
He's a pro.
No, he is very, very good. He is very good. He's one of my favorite guests we've ever had.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite interviews.
In the context of an actual conversation, debate, a fight.
Yeah.
He was a guy that it was, I had one I did with, a former great grandson of Thomas Jefferson. I don't know if you've seen this one. Did you see that one or no? Rob, can you go to that one real quick? That's one of the way it ended the last 30 seconds. Just go there and we'll wrap it up.
Remember the name of this guy? He's got one of the more interesting, iconic names.
He's, what is his
it's like
name?
Blue Blood Americana as it gets. Something with a T.
This is the one. Okay, what is his name? Jefferson descendant. Yeah, but what's his actual name? Troust.
Lucian Truscott.
Yeah,
Truscott. Okay.
Exactly. Lucian Truscott.
So this whole thing, he talks about how Thomas Jefferson is this, and that's his grandfather, and all this stuff. And I'm like, who's your favorite president? He says, what's it matter? I said, who's your favorite president? Barack Obama. I said, let me tell you what Barack Obama said about Thomas Jefferson. And he did not like that. Can you go to that last part where the spike is there, Rob? Keep going right there. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay.
I'm disagreeing with why take it and replace it. Why not just put it elsewhere and recognize?
Well, I told you, I answered that question.
Then there you go. So I answered your question as well. I answered your question as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I've had a blast with you.
Yeah.
By far one of my favorite interviews of all time.
Yeah.
I wish you nothing but the best.
Okay.
All good. Take care of yourself.
Watch this.
What a fucking asshole.
You know what this is? This is all the notes up here for you.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
I
because
love it.
He was. Anyways,
that was in 2020
that's a long
during all
time
the
ago.
BLM riots
What's the
and
date?
everything.
Can you go back and see what the date on that was?
That would have been in the summer of 2020. I'm assuming.
Is it?
Only the 30 seconds, so I felt like you were defending
July 24, 2020.
Yeah. I don't know the full context, but that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, he is one of the guys that is very disappointed of what Thomas Jefferson did, and he's one of the 6th-generation descendants of Thomas Jefferson. Anyways, Cheal, we can do this for hours. Yeah. We've had a blast with you. You're absolutely amazing to talk to. Looking forward to doing this thing many, many more. When you're running, we got to come back and have those types of conversations where the topics are all that. But we will see you at the fight in 2 days, brother.
I appreciate it. I will be there, and I thank you guys for having me on.
My man, appreciate you. Guys, take care, everybody. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to noon, 3 hours. Candace Owens, Chris Cuomo tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.